be questioned by guards Ring, Captain General personally. But you will be set free once it's clear you meant harm. He paused, hidden thoughts in his eyes. I hope you were telling the truth, Rondon Thor, from the two of us. You will conduct all three of us to my mother, Elaine announced suddenly. A grin bloomed on Gowan's face. Behind the steel bars across his face, Talonvar appeared taken aback. My lady, or else conduct all three of us to a cell, Elaine said. We will remain together. Or you give orders for hands to be laid upon my person. Her smile was victorious, and the way Talonvar looked around as if he expected to find help in the trees said he too thought she had won. Won what? How? Mother is moved up me, Gowan said softly, as if he had read Rand's thoughts. And even if she was not busy, Talonvar would not dare troop into her presence with Elaine and me, as if we were under guard. Mother has a bit of a temper sometimes. Rand remembered what Master Gill had said about Queen Morgaze. Bit of a temper. Another red uniformed soldier came running down the path, skidding to a halt to salute with an arm across his chest. He spoke softly to Talonvar, and his words brought satisfaction back to Talonvar's face. The Queen, your Lady Mother, Talonvar announced, commands me to bring the intruder to her immediately. It is also the Queen's command that my Lady Elaine and my Lord Gowan attend her. Also immediately. Gowan winced, and Elaine swallowed hard. Her face composed, she still began industriously brushing the stains on her dress. Aside from dislodging a few pieces of bark, her effort did little good. If my lady pleases, Talonvar said smugly. Allons. The soldiers formed around them in a hollow box that started along the slate path, with Talonvar leading. Gowan and Elaine walked on either side of Rand, both appearing lost in unpleasant thoughts. The soldiers had sheathed their swords and returned arrows to prickers, but they were no less on guard than when they had had weapons in hand. They watched Rand as if they expected him at any moment to snatch his sword and try to cut his way to freedom. Try anything. I won't try anything. Unnoticed? Huh. Watching the soldiers watching him, he suddenly became aware of the garden. One thing had happened after another, each new shot coming before the last one had a chance to fade. And his surroundings had been a blur, except for the wall, and just about wished to be back on the other side of it. Now he saw the green grass that had only tickled the back of his mind before. Green. 100 shades of green. Trees and bushes, green and thriving, thick with leaves and fruit. Lush vines covering arbors over the path. Flowers everywhere. So many flowers, spraying the garden with color. Some he knew, bright golden sunburst, tiny pink callowed crimson starblaze, and purple Emin's glory, roses in every color from purest white to deep, deep red. But others were strange, so fanciful in shape and hue he wondered if they could be real. It's green, he whispered. Green. The soldiers muttered to themselves. Talonvar gave them a sharp look over his shoulder, and they fell silent. Elida's right, Gowan said absently. It is not right, Elaine said. She asked if I wanted to pick out the one farm she could do the same for. All around it, the crops still fail. But it still isn't right for us to have flowers when there are people who do not have enough to eat. She drew a deep breath and refilled her self-possession. Remember yourself, she told Rand briskly. Speak up clearly when you are spoken to, and keep silent otherwise. And follow her lead. All will be ready. Rand wished he could share her confidence. It would have helped if Gowan had seemed to have it as well. As Talonvar led them into the palace, he looked back at the garden, at all the green streaked with blossoms, colors wrought for a queen by an Aes Sedai's hand. He was in deep water, and there was no bank in sight. Palace servants filled the halls in red liveries with collars and cuffs of white, the white line on the left breast of their tunics, scurrying about intent on tasks that were not readily apparent. When the soldiers trooped by with Elaine and Gowan, and Rand in their midst, they stopped dead in their tracks to stare open-mouthed. Through the middle of all the consternation, a gray-striped tomcat wandered unconcernedly down the hall, weaving between the goggling servants. Suddenly the cat struck Rand as a mud. He had been in Fairlawn long enough to know that even the meanest shop had cats lurking in every corner. Since entering the palace, that Tom was the only cat he had seen. "You don't have rats," he said in disbelief. Every place had rats. "Elida doesn't like rats," Gowan muttered vaguely. He was frowning worriedly down the hall, apparently already seeing the coming meeting with the Queen. "We never have rats. Perfectly be quiet." Elaine's voice was sharp, but as absent as her brother's. "I'm trying to think." Rand watched the cat over his shoulder until the guards took him round the corner, hiding the Tom from sight. A lot of cats would have made him feel better. It would have been nice if there was one thing normal about the palace, even if it was rats. The path Tollenvor took turned so many times that Rand lost his sense of direction. Finally, the young officer stopped before tall double doors of dark wood with a rich glow, not so grand as some they had passed, but still carved all over with rows of lions, finely wrought in detail. A liveried servant stood to either side. "At least it isn't the Grand Hall," Gavin laughed unsteadily. "I never heard that Mother commanded anyone's head cut off from here." He sounded as if he thought she might set a precedent. Tollenvor reached for Rand's sword, but Elaine moved to cut him off. "He is my guest, and by custom and law, guests of the royal family may go armed even in Mother's presence. Or will you deny my word that he is my guest?" Tollenvor hesitated, locking eyes with her, then nodded. "Very well, my lady." He smiled at Rand as Tollenvor stepped back, but it lasted only a moment. "First right to accompany me," Tollenvor commanded. "The Lady Elaine and the Lord Gowan to Her Majesty," he told the doorkeepers. "Also Guardsman Lieutenant Tollenvor, at Her Majesty's command, with the intruder under guard." Elaine scowled at Tollenvor, but the doors were already swinging open. A sonorous voice sounded, announcing those who came. Grandly, Elaine swept through the doors, spoiling her regal entrance only a little by motioning for Rand to keep close behind her. Gowan squared his shoulders and strode in flanking her, one measured pace to her rear. Rand followed uncertainly, keeping level with Gowan on her other side. Tollenvor stayed close to Rand, and 10 soldiers came with him. The doors closed behind them.
I gotta break. Whoa!
Elaine dropped into a deep curtsy.
I gotta break some roaches up and roll one or two.
Rand gave a start, then hastily emulated Gowan and the other men, shifting awkwardly until he had it right. Down on his right knee, head bowed, bending forward to press the knuckles of his right hand against the marble tiles, his left hand resting on the end of his sword hilt. Gowan, without a sword, put his hand on his dagger the same way. Rand was just congratulating himself on getting it right when he noticed Tollenvor, his head still bent, glaring sideways at him from behind his face guard. Was I supposed to do something else? He was suddenly angry that Tollenvor expected him to know what to do when no one had told him. And angry over being afraid of the guards. He had done nothing to be fearful for. He knew his fear was not Tollenvor's fault, but he was angry at him anyway. Everyone held their positions, frozen as if waiting for the spring thaw. He did not know what they were waiting for, but he took the opportunity to study the place to which he had been brought. He kept his head down, just turning it enough to see. Tollenvor's scowl deepened, but he ignored it. The square chamber was about the size of a throne room with the Queen's blessing, its walls presenting hunting scenes carved in relief in stone of the purest white. The tapestries between the carvings were gentle images of bright flowers and brilliantly plumaged hummingbirds, except for the two at the far end of the room, where the white lion of Andor stood taller than a man on scarlet fields. Those two hangings flanked the dais, a carved and gilded throne, where sat the Queen. A bluff, blocky man stood bareheaded by the Queen's right hand in the rear of the Queen's guards, with 4 golden knots on the shoulder of his cloak, wide golden bands breaking the white of his cuffs. His temples were heavy with gray, but he looked as strong and immovable as a rock. That had to be the Captain General Gareth Bryn. Behind the throne and to the other side, a woman in deep green silk sat on a low stool, knitting something out of dark, almost black wool. At first, the knitting made Rand think she was old. At second glance, he could not put an age to her at all. Young, old, he did not know. Her attention seemed to be entirely on her needles and yarn, just as if there were not a queen within arm's reach of her. She was a handsome woman, outwardly placid, yet there was something terrible in her concentration. There was no sound in the room except for the click of her needles. He tried to look at everything, yet his eyes kept going back to the woman with the gleaming wreath of finely wrought roses on her brow, the rose crown of Andor. A long red stole, the line of Andor marching along its length, hung over her silken dress of red and white pleats. When she touched the Captain General's arm with her left hand, a ring in the shape of a great serpent, eating its own tail, glittered. Yet it was not the grandeur of clothes or jewelry, or even crown, that drew Rand's eyes again and again. It was the woman who wore them. Morghese had her daughter's beauty matured and ripened. Her face and figure, her presence, filled the room like a light that dimmed the other two with her. If she had been a widow in Emmonsfield, she would have had a line of suitors outside her door, even if she was the worst cook and the most slovenly housekeeper in the Two Rivers. He saw her studying him and ducked his head, afraid she might be able to tell his thoughts from his face. Thinking about the queen like she was a village woman. You fool. You may rise, Morghese said in a rich, warm voice that held Elaine's assurance of obedience 100 times over. Rand stood with the rest. Mother, Elaine began, but Morghese cut her off. You have been climbing trees, it seems, daughter. Elaine plucked a stray fragment of bark from her dress, and finding there was no place to put it, held it clenched in her hand. In fact, Morghese went on calmly, it would seem that despite my orders to the contrary, you have contrived to take your look at this Logain. Gawain, I have thought better of you. You must learn not only to obey your sister, but at the same time to be counterweight for her against disaster. The queen's eyes swung to the blocky man beside her, then quickly away again. Bryn remained impassive, as if he had not noticed, but Rand thought those eyes noticed everything. That, Gawain, is as much the duty of the First Prince as is leading the armies of Andor. Perhaps if your training is intensified, you will find less time for letting your sister lead you into trouble.
Hey.
I will ask the Captain General to see if you do not lack the things to do on the journey north. Gawain shifted his feet as if about to protest, then bowed his head instead. As you command, Mother. Elaine grimaced. Mother, Gawain cannot keep me out of trouble if he is not with me. It was for that reason alone he left his rooms. Mother, surely there could be no harm in just looking at Logain. Almost everyone in the city is closer to him than we. Everyone in the city is not the daughter heir. Sharpness underlay the queen's voice. I have seen this fellow Logain from close, and he is dangerous to me. Caged, with Aes Sedai to guard him every minute, he is still as dangerous as a wolf. He will be dealt with in Tar Valon. The woman on the stool did not take her eyes from her knitting as she spoke. What is important is that the people see the light has once again vanquished the dark, and that they see you are part of that victory, Morghese. Morghese waved a dismissive hand. I would still rather he had never come near King. Elaine. Mother, Elaine protested.
Hopefully,
I do not obey.
hopefully you can shriek down the price.
You do, Morghese asked in mock surprise, and chuckled. Yes, you do try to be a dutiful daughter, but you constantly test how far you may go. Well, I did the same with my mother. That spirit will stand you in good stead when you ascend the throne. But you are not queen yet, child. You have disobeyed me and had your look at Logain. Be satisfied with that. On the journey north, you will not be allowed within 100 paces of him. Neither you nor Gawain. If I did not know just how hard your lessons will be in Tar Valon, I would send Lenny along to see that you obey. She, at least, seems able to make you do as you must. Elaine bowed her head sullenly. The woman behind the throne seemed occupied with counting her stitches. In 1 week, she said suddenly, you will be wanting to come home to your mother. In a month, You will be wanting to run away with the traveling people. But my sisters will keep you away from the unbeliever. That sort of thing is not for you.
Hopefully, yeah, that'd be good
Abruptly,
to
she
run
turned
in
and
good
stood looking
weather.
intently at Elaine, almost placidity gone, as if it had never been. You have it in you to be the greatest queen that Endor has ever seen, that any land has seen in more than 1,000 years. It is for that we will shake you, if you have the strength for it. And stared at him. She had to be Elida, the Aes Sedai. Suddenly he was glad he had not come to her for help, no matter what her object. A sternness far beyond Moraine's radiated from her. He had sometimes thought of Moraine as steel covered with velvet. With Elida, the velvet was only an illusion. Enough, Elida, Morgay said, frowning uneasily. She has heard that more than enough. The wheel weaves as the wheel wins. For a moment she was silent, looking at her daughter. Now there is the problem of this young man. She gestured to Rand without taking her eyes off Elaine's face. And how and why he came here, and why you claimed guest right for him to your brother. May I speak, Mother? When Morgay nodded her assent, Elaine told of events simply, from the time she first saw Rand climbing up the slope to the wall. He expected her to finish by proclaiming the innocence of what he had done, but instead she said, Mother, often you tell me I must know our people, from the highest to the lowest. But whenever I meet any of them, it is with a dozen attendants. How can I come to know anything real or true under such circumstances? In speaking with this young man, I have already learned more about the people of Two Rivers, what kind of people they are, than I ever could from books. It says something that he has come so far and is put on the ring, when so many incomers wear the white from fear. Mother, I beg you not to misuse a loyal subject, and one who has taught me much about the people you rule. A loyal subject from the Two Rivers. Morgay sighed. Much. You should pay more heed to those books. The Two Rivers has not seen a tax collector in 6 generations, nor the Queen's Guards in 7. I dare say they seldom even think to remember they are part of the realm. Rand shrugged uncomfortably, recalling his surprise when he was told the Two Rivers was part of the realm of Andor. The Queen saw him and smiled ruefully at her daughter. You see, child. Elida had put down her knitting, Rand realized, and was studying him. She rose from her stool and slowly came down from the dais to stand before him. From the Two Rivers, she said. She reached a hand toward his head. He pulled away from her touch, and she let her hand drop. With that red in his hair and gray eyes. Two Rivers people are darker hair and dye, and they seldom have such white. Her hand darted out to push back his coat sleeve, exposing lighter skin the sun had not reached so often. Or such skin. It was an effort not to clench his fists. I was born in Emmons Field, he said stiffly.
As soon as I get one more rolled up, we'll do a dab.
My father is Tamal Thor, a shepherd and farmer, as I am. Elida nodded slowly, never taking her eyes from his face. He met her gaze with a levelness that belied the sour feeling in his stomach. He saw her note the steadiness of his look. Still meeting him eye to eye, she moved her hand slowly toward him again. He resolved not to flinch this time. It was his sword she touched, not him, her hand closing around the hilt at the very top. Her fingers tightened, and her eyes opened wide with surprise. She said softly, a whisper meant to be heard by all. With a hair-marked sword. Those last few words acted on the chamber as if she had announced the Dark One. Leather and metal creaked behind Rand, boots scuffling on the marble tiles. From the corner of his eye, he could see Talonvor and another of the guardsmen backing away from him to gain room, hands on their swords, prepared to draw, and from their faces, prepared to die. In 2 quick strides, Garth Bryn was at the front of the dais between Rand and the Queen. Even Gowan put himself in front of Elaine, a worried look on his face, and a hand on his dagger. Elaine herself looked at him as if she were seeing him for the first time. Morgay's did not change expression, but her hands tightened on the gilded arms of her throne. Only Elida showed less reaction than the Queen. The Aes Sedai gave no sign that she had said anything out of the ordinary. She took her hand from the sword, causing the soldiers to tense even more. Her eyes stayed on his, unruffled and calculating. Surely, Morgay said, her voice level, he is too young to have earned a heron-marked blade. He cannot be any older than Gowan. It belongs with him, Gareth Bryn said. The Queen looked at him in surprise. How can that be? I do not know, Morgay, Bryn said slowly. He is too young. Yet still it belongs with him, and he with it. Look at his eyes. Look how he stands, how the sword fits him, and he it. He is too young, but the sword is his. When the Captain General fell silent, Elida said, how did you come by this blade, Randolph Thor from the Two Rivers? She said it as if she doubted his name as much as she did where he was from. My father gave it to me, Brand said. It was his. He thought I'd need a sword out in the world. Yet another shepherd from the Two Rivers with a heron-marked blade. Elida's smile made his mouth go dry. When did you arrive in Canaan? He had had enough of telling this woman the truth. She made him as afraid as any dark friend had. It was time to start hiding again. Today, he said, this morning. Just in time, she murmured. Where are you staying? Don't say you have not found a room somewhere. You will look a little tattered, but you have had a chance to freshen. Where? The Crown and Lion. He remembered passing the Crown and Lion while looking for the Queen's blessing. It was on the other side of the new city from Master Gill's Inn. I have a bed there, in the attic. He had the feeling that she knew he was lying, but she only nodded. What chance this, she said. Today the unbeliever is brought into Canaan. In 2 days he will be taken north to Tarvan, and with him goes the daughter heir from training. And at just this juncture, a young man appears in the palace gardens, claiming to be a loyal subject from the Two Rivers. I am from the Two Rivers. They were all looking at him, but all ignored him. All but Talonvor and the guards. Those eyes never blink. With a story calculated to entice Elaine, and bearing a heron-marked blade. He does not wear an armband or a cockade to claim his allegiance.
Got two rolled up.
That carefully conceal the heron from
Guys, gotta break some other roaches up real quick.
What chance this is? The Queen motioned the Captain General to stand aside, and when he did, she studied Rand with a troubled look. It was to Elida that she spoke, though. What are you naming him? Dark Friend? One of Lurgain's followers? The Dark One stirs in Shale Brewery, the Aes Sedai replied. The shadow lies across the pattern, and the future is balanced on the point of a pin. This one is dangerous. Suddenly Elaine moved, throwing herself onto her knees before the throne. Mother, I beg you not to harm him. He would have left immediately had I not stopped him. He wanted to go. It was I who made him stay. I cannot believe he is a Dark Friend. Morgay made a soothing gesture toward her daughter, but her eyes remained on Rand.
Hell yeah, that's cool. Your mom has all kinds of appliances. I got hot point, nice. Hey, as long as it's okay, that's all that matters.
If this is a foretelling, Elida, I command you to speak the truth clearly, without your usual habit of wrapping it in so much mystery that no one can tell if you have said yes or no. Speak. What do you see? This I foretell, Elida replied, and swear under the light that I can say no clearer. From this day, Andor marches toward pain and division. The shadow has yet to darken to its blackest, and I cannot see if the light will come after. Where the world has wept one tear, it will weep thousands. This I foretell.
Oh, that sucks.
A fall of silence clung to the room.
That always sucks when you forget them.
Breath, as if it were her last. Elida continued to stare into Rand's eyes. She spoke again, barely moving her lips, so softly that he could barely hear her less than an arm's length away. This too I foretell. Pain and division come to the whole world, and This man stands at the heart of it. I will bring the queen, she whispered. Speak it clearly. Rand felt as if his feet had become rooted in the marble floor. The cold and stiffness of the stone crept up his legs and sent a shiver up his spine. No one else could have heard, but she was still looking at him, and he had heard. I'm a shepherd, he said for the entire room. From the 2 rivers. A shepherd. The wheel weaves as the wheel waves, Elida said aloud, and he could not tell if there was a touch of mockery in her tone or not. Lord Gareth, Morgay said, I need the advice of my Captain General. The blocky man shook his head. Elida Sedai says the lad is dangerous, my queen. And if she could tell more, I would say summon the headsman. But all she says is what any of us can see with our own eyes. There's not a farmer in the countryside won't say things will get worse without any foretelling. Myself, I believe the boy is here through mere happenstance, though an ill one for him. To be safe, my queen, I say clap him in a cell to the Lady Elaine and the Lord Gawain are well on their way. Then let him go. Unless I Sedai, who have more to foretell concerning him. I have said all that I have read in the pattern, Captain General, Elida said. She flashed a hard smile at Rand, a smile that barely bent her lips, mocking his inability to say that she was not telling the truth. A few weeks in prison will not harm me, and it may give me a chance to learn more. Hunger filled her eyes, deepening his chill. Perhaps another foretelling will come. For a time, Morgase considered, chin on her fist and elbow on the arm of her throne. Rand would have shifted under her frowning gaze if he could have moved at all, but Elida's eyes froze him solid. Finally, the queen spoke. Suspicion is smothering cavemen. Perhaps all of Andor. Fear and black suspicion. Women denounce their neighbors for dark friends. Men scroll the dragon's fang on the doors of people they have known for years. I will not become part of it. More days, Elida began, but the queen cut her off. I will not become part of it. When I took the throne, I swore to uphold justice for the high and the low, and I will uphold it, even if I am the last in Andor to remember justice. Grand Althor, do you swear under the light that your father, a shepherd in the 2 rivers, gave you this hair-and-marked blade? Rand worked his mouth to get enough moisture to speak. I do. Abruptly remembering to whom he was speaking, he hastily added, My queen. Lord Gareth raised a heavy eyebrow, but Morgase did not seem to mind. And you climbed the garden wall simply to gain a look at the false dragon? Yes, my queen. Do you mean harm to the throne of Andor? Or to my daughter, or my son? Her tone said the last 2 would gain him an even shorter shrift than the first. I mean no harm to anyone, my queen. To you and yours least of all. I will give you justice then, Grand Althor, she said. First, because I have the advantage of Elida and Gareth in having heard 2 Rivers' speech when I was young. You have not the look, but if a dim memory can serve me, you have the 2 Rivers on your tongue. Second, no one with your hair and eyes would claim that he is a 2 Rivers shepherd unless it was true. And that your father gave you a hair-and-marked blade is too preposterous to be a lie. And third, the voice that whispers to me that the best lie is often one too ridiculous to be taken for a lie, that voice is not proof. I will uphold the laws I have made. I give you your freedom, Grand Althor, but I suggest you take care where you trespass in the future. If you are found in the palace grounds again, it will not go so easily with you. Thank you, my queen, he said hoarsely. He could feel Elida's displeasure like a heat on his face. Talonvor, Morgase said, escort my daughter's guest from the palace and show him every courtesy. The rest of you go as well. No, Elida, you stay. And if you will too, please, Lord Gareth. I must decide what to do about these white cloaks in the city. Talonvor and the guardsmen sheathed their swords reluctantly, ready to draw again in an instant. Still, Rand was glad to let the soldiers form a hollow box around him and to follow Talonvor. Elida was only half attending what the Queen was saying. He could feel her eyes on his back. What would have happened if Morgaze had not kept the Aes Sedai with her? The thought made him wish the soldiers would walk faster. To his surprise, Elaine and Gawain exchanged a few words outside the door, then fell in beside him. Talonvor was surprised too. The young officer looked from them back to the doors closing now. My mother, Elaine said, ordered him to be escorted from the palace, Talonvor, with every courtesy. What are you waiting for? Talonvor scowled at the doors behind which the Queen was conferring with her advisors. Nothing, my lady, he said sourly, and needlessly ordered the escort forward. The wonders of the palace slid by Rand unseen. He was befuddled, snatches of thought spinning by too fast to grasp. You have not the look. This man stands. The escort stopped. He blinked, startled to find himself in the great court in front of the palace, standing at the tall gilded gates gleaming in the sun. Those gates would not be opened for a single man, certainly not for a trespasser, even if the daughter heir did claim guest right for him. Wordlessly, Talonvor unbarred a sally port, a small door set within one gate. It is the custom, Elaine said, to escort guests as far as the gates, but not to watch them go. It is the pleasure of a guest's company that should be remembered, not the sadness of parting. Thank you, my lady, Rand said. He touched the scarf bandaging his head. For everything. Custom in the Two Rivers is for a guest to bring a small gift. I'm afraid I have nothing. Although, he added dryly, apparently I did teach you something of the Two Rivers folk. If I had told Mother I think you are handsome, she certainly would have had you locked in a cell. Elaine favored him with a dazzling smile. Fare you well, Randolph Thor. Gaping, he watched her go, a younger version of Morgaze's beauty and majesty. Do not try to bandy words with her, Gawain laughed. She will win every time. Rand nodded absently. Handsome. Like the daughter heir to the throne of Andor. He gave himself a shake to clear his head. Gawain seemed to be waiting for something. Rand looked at him for a moment. My lord, when I told you I was from the Two Rivers, you were surprised. And everybody else, your mother, Lord Gareth, Elida Sedai. A shiver ran down his back. None of them. He could not finish. He was not even sure why he started. I am Thor's son, even if I was not born in the Two Rivers. Gawain nodded as if it was for this he had been waiting. Still, he hesitated. Rand opened his mouth to take back the unspoken question, and Gawain said, Wrap a shufa around your head, Rand, and you would be the image of an Aiel man. Odd, since Mother seems to think you sound like a Two Rivers man at least. I wish we could have come to know one another, Randolph Thor. Are you ready? Aiel. Rand stood watching Gawain's retreating back until an impatient cough from Talonvor reminded him where he was. He ducked through the sally port, barely clearing his heels before Talonvor slammed it behind him. The bars inside were jammed into place loudly.
Okay.
The oval plaza in front of the palace was empty now. All the soldiers gone, all the crowds, trumpets, and drums vanished in silence. Nothing left but a scattering of glitter blowing across the pavement and a few people hurrying about their business now that the excitement was done. He could not make out if they showed the red or the white. With a start, he realized he was standing right in front of the palace gates, right where Elida could find him easily once she finished with the Queen. Pulling his cloak close, he broke into a trot, across the plaza, and into the streets of the inner city. He looked back frequently to see if anyone was following him, but the sweeping curves kept him from seeing very far. He could remember Elida's eyes all too well, though, and imagined them watching. By the time he reached the gates to the new city, he was running. Old friends, new threats. Back at the Queen's blessing, Rand threw himself against the front door frame, panting. He had run all the way. Everyone saw that he wore the red. He was running as an excuse to chase him. He did not even think a fade could have caught him. Samgren was sitting on the floor, the brindled cat in his arms, when he came running up. The man stood to look for trouble the way Rand had come, still calmly scratching behind the cat's ears. Seeing nothing, he sat back down and observed the animal. Fools tried to steal some of the cats a while back. He examined his head, going back to his scratching. Good money in cats these days. The two men showing the white were still across the way, Rand saw. One with a black eye and a swollen jaw. That one wore a sour scowl and rubbed his sword hilt with a sullen eagerness as he watched the inn. Where's Master Gill? Rand asked. Library, Samgren replied. The cat began purring and he grinned. Nothing bothers a cat for long, not even somebody trying to stick him in the sack. Hurried inside, through the common room, now with its usual complement of men wearing the red and talking over their ale. And whether the white cloaks would make trouble when he was taken north. No one cared what happened to Logain, but they all knew Lord Gowan would be traveling in the party. No man there would countenance any risk to that. He found Master Gill in the library, playing stones with Loyal. A plump tabby sat on the table, feet tucked under her, watching their hands move over the cross-hatched board. The Ogier placed another stone with a touch oddly delicate for his fingers. Shaking his head, Master Gill took the excuse of Rand's appearance to turn from the table. Loyal almost always wanted stones. I was beginning to worry where you were, lad. But you might have had trouble with some of those white-flashing traitors. Or run into that beggar or something. For a minute, Rand stood there with his mouth open. He had that bundle of rags. I saw him, he said finally. That's nothing. I saw the Queen, too. And Elijah. That's where the trouble is. Master Gill snorted a laugh. The Queen, eh? You don't say. We had Gareth Bryn out in the common room an hour or so ago, arm wrestling the Lord Captain Commander of the Children. The Queen now. That's something. Blood and ashes, Rand growled. Everybody thinks I'm lying today. He tossed his cloak across the back of a chair and threw himself onto another. He was too wound up to sit back. He perched on the front edge, mopping his face with a handkerchief. I saw the beggar.
All right, for Ouija. Got to recover after that one, then we'll do another one.
Where I could see the plaza in front of the palace, where they took Logain in. And I fell off on the inside. I almost believe you aren't making fun, the innkeeper said slowly. The Lyran, Loyal murmured. Oh, it happened, Rand said. Right, help me, it did. Master Gill's skepticism melted slowly as he went on, turning to quiet alarm. The innkeeper leaned more and more forward until he was perched on the edge of his chair, the same as Rand was. Loyal listened impassively, except that every so often he rubbed his broad nose and the tufts on his ears gave a little twitch. Rand told everything that had happened, everything except what Elijah had whispered to him, and what Gowan had said at the palace gate. One he did not want to think about, the other had nothing to do with anything. I'm Tam Althar's son, even if I wasn't born in the Two Rivers. I am. I'm Two Rivers' blood, and Tam is my father. Abruptly, he realized he had stopped talking, caught up in his thoughts, and they were looking at him. For one panicky moment, he wondered if he had said too much. Well, Master Gill said, there's no more waiting for your friends for you. You will have to leave the city, and fast. 2 days at the most. Can you get Matt on his feet in that time? Or should I send for Mother Grub? Rand gave him a perplexed look. 2 days? Elida is Queen Morghase's advisor, right next to Captain General Gareth Bryn himself. Maybe ahead of him. If she sets the Queen's guards looking for you, Lord Gareth won't stop her unless she interferes with their other duties. Well, the guards can search every inn in Camelin in 2 days. And that's saying some ill chance doesn't bring them here the first day or the first hour. Maybe there's a little time if they start over at the Crown and Lion, but none for dawdling. Rand nodded slowly. If I can't get Matt out of bed, you send for Mother Grub. I have a little money left, maybe enough. I'll take care of Mother Grub, the innkeeper said gruffly. And I suppose I can lend you a couple of horses. You try walking to Pt.11 and you'll wear through what's left of your boots halfway there. You're a good friend, Brent said. It seems like we've brought you nothing but trouble, but you're still willing to help. Good friend. Master Gill seemed embarrassed. He shrugged his shoulders and cleared his throat and looked down. That brought his eyes to the stones board and he jerked them away again. Loyal was definitely winning. Well, Tom's always been a good friend to me. If he's willing to go out of his way for you, I can do a little bit too. I would like to go with you when you leave, Brad, Loyal said suddenly. I thought that was settled, Loyal. He hesitated. Master Gill still did not know the whole of the danger. Then added, Do you know what waits for Matt and me? What's chasing us? Dark friends, the Ogier replied in placid rumble. And Aes Sedai, and the light knows what else. Or the Dark One. You are going to Pt.11, and there is a very fine grove there, which I have heard the Aes Sedai tend well. In any case, there is more to see in the world than the grove. You truly are Taviran, man. The pattern weaves itself around you, and you stand in the heart of it. This man stands at the heart of it. Rand felt a chill. I don't stand at the heart of anything, he said harshly. Master Gill blinked, and even Loyal seemed taken aback at his anger. The innkeeper and the Ogier looked at each other, and then at the floor. Rand forced his expression smooth, drawing deep breaths. For a wonder, he found the void that had eluded him so often of late, and calmness. They did not deserve his anger. You can come, Loyal, he said. I don't know why you'd want to, but I'd be grateful for the company. You know how Matt is. I know, Loyal said. I still cannot go into the streets without raising a mob and shouting Trolloc after me. But Matt at least only uses words. He has not tried to kill me. Of course not, Brand said. Not Matt. You wouldn't do that for him. Not Matt. A tap came at the door, and one of the serving maids, Gilda, stuck her head into the room. Her mouth was tight and her eyes worried. Master Gill, come quickly, please. There's white folks in the common room. Master Gill leaped up with an oath, sending the cat jumping from the table to stalk out of the room, tail stiff and offended. I'll come. Run and tell them I'm coming. Then stay out of their way. You hear me, girl? Keep away from them. Gilda bobbed her head and vanished. You had best stay here, he told Loyal. The Ogier snorted, a sound like sheets ripping. I have no desire for any more meetings with the children of the light. Master Gill's eye fell on the stones board, and his mood seemed to lighten. It looks as if we'll have to start the game over later. No need for that. Loyal stretched an arm to the shelves and took down a book. His hands dwarfed the cloth-bound volume. We can take up from where the board lies. It is your turn. Master Gill grimaced. If it isn't one thing, it's another, he muttered as he hurried from the room. Brand followed him, but slowly. He had no more desire than Loyal to become involved with the children. This man stands at the heart of it. He stopped at the door to the common room, where he could see what went on, but far enough back that he hoped he would not be noticed. Dead silence filled the room. 5 white cloaks stood in the middle of the floor, studiously being ignored by the folk at the tables. One of them had the silver lightning flash of an under-officer beneath the sunburst on his cloak. Lamgren was lounging against the wall by the door, intently cleaning his fingernails with a splinter. 4 more of the guards Master Gill had hired were spaced across the wall from him, all industriously paying no attention at all to the white cloaks. If the children of the light noticed anything, they gave no sign. Only the under-officer showed any emotion at all, impatiently tapping his steel-backed gauntlets against his palm as he waited for the innkeeper. Master Gill crossed the room to him quickly, a cautiously neutral look on his face. The light illumine you, he said with a careful bow, not too deep, but not slight enough to actually be insulting either. And our good Queen Morgaze. How may I help? I've no time for your drivel, innkeeper, the under-officer snapped. I've been to 20 inns already today, each a worse pigsty than the last. And I'll see 20 more before the sun sets. I'm looking for dark friends. A boy from the Two Rivers. Master Gill's face grew darker with every word. He puffed up as if he would explode. And finally he did, cutting Whiteblood off in turn. There are no dark friends in my establishment. Every man here is a good Queen's man. Yes, and we all know where Morgay stands. The under-officer twisted the Queen's name into a sneer. And her Tarvalin witch. Don't we?
Right, before you smoke this.
The scrape of chair legs was loud. Suddenly every man in the room was on his feet. They stood still as statues, but everyone staring grimly at the white folks. The under-officer did not appear to notice, but the four behind him looked around easily. It will go easier with you, innkeeper, the under-officer said, if you cooperate. The temper of the times goes hard with those who shelter dark friends. I wouldn't think an inn with the dragon's fang on its door would get much custom. Might have trouble with fire with that on your door. You get out of here now, Master Gill said quietly. Or I'll send for the Queen's guards to cart what's left of you to the middens. Lamgwin's sword rasped out of its sheath, and the coarse scrape of steel on leather was repeated throughout the room as swords and daggers filled hands. Serving maids scurried for the doors. The under-officer looked around in scornful disbelief. The dragon's fang won't help you five. He held his and raised his forefinger. What? You must be mad, innkeeper. Right? White cloaks hold no writ in King. 2. Can you really believe this will end here? 3. We'll be back, the under-officer snapped. He was hastily turning his men around. He was leaving in good order and in his own time. He was hampered in this as his men showed for the door, not running, but not making secret that they wanted to be outside. Lamgwin stood across the door with his sword, only giving way in response to Master Gill's frantic ways. When the white cloaks were gone, the innkeeper sat onto a chair. He rubbed his forehead, then stared at it as if surprised that it was not covered with sweat. All over the room, men seated themselves again, laughing over what they had done. Someone over to clap Master Gill on the shoulder. When he saw Rand, the innkeeper tottered up the chair and over to him. Who would have thought I had it in me to be a hero? He said wonderingly. The light illumined me. Abruptly, he gave himself a shake, and almost its normal. You'll have to stay out of the sea. With the room, he pushed Rand deeper into the hall. Well, we'll be back. Guys wearing red for the day. After that little show I put on, I don't doubt they'll care whether you're here or not. They'll act as though you are. Easy, Rand protested. At the innkeeper's gesture, he lowered his voice. The white cloaks don't have any reason to be after me. I don't know about reasons, lad. But they're after you and Matt for certain sure. What have you been up to? Elida and the white cloaks. Rand raised his hands in protest, then let them fall. It made no sense, but he had heard the white cloak. What about you? The white cloaks will make trouble for you, even when they don't find us. No worries about that, lad. The Queen's guards still uphold the law, even if they strut around showing. As for the night, well, Lamgwin and his friends might not get much sleep, but I could almost pity anybody who tries to put a knock on my door. Gilda appeared beside them, dropping a curtsy to Master Gill. Sir, there's a lady in the kitchens. She sounded scandalized at the combination.
Before we start this, let's take a little breather first.
Master Matt, by name. Rand exchanged a puzzled look with the innkeeper. Lad, Master Gill said, if you've actually managed to bring the Lady Elaine down from the palace to my inn, we'll all end up facing the headsman. Gilda squeaked at the mention of the daughter heir and gave Rand a round-eyed stare. Off with you, girl, the innkeeper said sharply. And keep quiet about what you've heard. It's nobody's business. Gilda bobbed again and darted down the hallway, flashing glances over her shoulder at Rand as she went. 5 minutes, Master Gill sighed. She will be telling the other women you're a prince in disguise. By nightfall, it'll be all over the new city. Master Gill, Rand said, I never mentioned Matt to Elaine. It can't be. Suddenly, a huge smile lit up his face, and he ran for the kitchens. Wait, the innkeeper called behind him. Wait until you know. Wait, you fool. Rand threw open the door to the kitchens, and there they were. Moraine rested her serene eyes, surprised. Nynaeve and Egwene ran laughing to throw their arms around him, with Perrin crowding in behind them. All three patting his shoulders as if they had to be convinced that he was really there. In the doorway, leading to the stable yard, Rand lounged with one boot up on the doorframe, dividing his attention between the kitchen and the yard outside. Rand tried to hug the two women and shake Perrin's hand, all at the same time. And it was a tangle of arms and laughter, complicated by Nynaeve trying to feel his face for fever. They looked somewhat the worse for wear, bruises on Perrin's face, and he had a way of keeping his eyes downcast that he had never had before. But they were alive, and together again. His throat was so tight he could barely talk. I was afraid I'd never see you again, he managed finally. I was afraid you were off. I knew you were alive, Egwene said against his chest. I always knew it. Always. I didn't act, Nynaeve said. Her voice was sharp for just that moment, but it softened the next, and she smiled up at him. You look well, Rand. Not overfed by any means, but well, thank the light. Well, Master Gill said behind him, I guess you know these people after all. Those friends you were looking for? Rand nodded. Yes, my friends. He made introductions all around. It still felt odd to be giving Lan and Moraine their right names. They both eyed him sharply when he did. The innkeeper greeted everyone with an open smile, but he was properly impressed at meeting a warder, especially at Moraine. At her, he gaped openly. It was one thing knowing an Aes Sedai had been helping the boys, quite something else having her appear in the kitchen. Then bowed deeply. You are welcome to the Queen's blessing, Aes Sedai, my guest. Though I suppose you'll be staying at the palace with the light Aes Sedai, and the Aes Sedai who came with the false dragon. Bowing again, he gave Rand a quick, worried look. It was all very well to say he did not speak ill of Aes Sedai, but that was not the same as saying he wanted one sleeping under his roof. Rand nodded encouragingly, trying to tell him silently that it was all right. Moraine was not like Elijah, with a threat hidden behind every glance, under every word. Are you sure? Even now, are you sure? I believe I will stay here, Moraine said, for the short time I remain in Cape. And you must allow me to pay. The calico cat sauntered in from the hallway to stroke the innkeeper's ankles. No sooner had the calico begun than a fuzzy gray sprang from under the table, arching its back and hissing. The calico crouched with a threatening growl, and the gray streaked past Lan into the stable yard. Master Gill began apologizing for the cats, at the same time he protested that Moraine would honor him by being his guest. And was she sure she would not prefer the palace, which he would quite understand. But he hoped she would accept his best room as a gift. It made a jumble to which Moraine seemed to pay no attention at all. Instead, she bent down to scratch the orange and white cat. It promptly left Master Gill's ankles for hers. I've seen 4 other cats here so far, she said. You have a problem with mice? Rats. Rats, Moraine said I. The innkeeper sighed. A terrible problem. Not that I don't keep a clean place, you understand. It's all the people. The whole city is full of people and rats. My cats take care of it. You'll not be troubled, I promise. Rand exchanged a fleeting look with Perrin, who put his eyes down again right away. There was something odd about his eyes. Perrin was almost always slow to speak. Now he was saying nothing at all. It could be all the people, he said. With your permission, Master Gill, Morgan said,
Roaches.
as if she took it for granted. It is a simple matter to keep rats away from this street. If not, the rats will not even realize they are being kept away. Master Gill frowned at that last, but he bowed, accepting her offer. If you are sure you don't want to stay at the palace, I said. Where is Matt? Nynaeve said suddenly. She said he was here too. Upstairs, Rand said. He's not feeling well. Nynaeve's head came up. He's sick. I'll leave the rats to her, and I'll attend to him. Take me to join him now, Rand. All of you go up, Moraine said. I will join you in a few minutes. We are crowded in Master Gill's kitchen, and it would be best if we could all be somewhere quiet for a time. There was an undercurrent in her voice. Stay out of sight. The hiding is not done yet. Come on, Rand said. We'll go up the back way. The Emmonsfield folk crowded after him to the back staircase, leaving the Aes Sedai and the water in the kitchen with Master Gill. He could not get over being back to
Playing a little Diablo while I'm doing this too.
He could not stop grinning. The same relief, almost joyous, seemed to be affecting the others. They chuckled to themselves and kept reaching out to grip his arm. Baron's voice seemed subdued. He kept his head down. He off as they climbed. Moraine said she could find you in that, and she did. When we rode into the city, the rest of us couldn't stop staring. Well, all except Lan, of course. All the people, the buildings, everything. His thick curls swung as he shook his head in disbelief. It's all so big. So many people. Some of them kept staring at us, too, shouting, red or white, like it made some kind of sense. Egwene touched Fran's sword, fingering the red wrappings. What does it mean? Nothing, he said.
Oh, damn, that sucks when your hard drive starts to go.
Remember? Egwene gave him a look, but she removed her hand from the sword and took up where Baron had left off. Moraine didn't look at anything any more than Lan did. She led us back and forth through all those streets like a dog hunting a snake. I thought you couldn't be here. Then, all of a sudden, she took off down the street, and the next thing I knew, we were handing the horses to the stableman and marching into the kitchen. She never even asked if you were here. Just told a woman who was mixing batter to go tell Randall Thor and Matt Compton that someone wanted to see them. And there you were, she grinned. Like a ball, popping into the Gleeman's hand out of nowhere. Is he with you? Grant's stomach lurched, and a good feeling of having friends around him dimmed. Tom's dead.
Hell yeah. Oh, SSD, nice.
There was a fade.
The one I used to have an external hard drive that I had for my PS5.
The silence thickened around them. Chuckles, they reached the head of the stairs.
Technically, the only thing it really helped with, as far as memory wise, was I was able to have more games downloaded on my system, mainly because when you have the external hard drive hooked up to it like that, you can only download PS4 games. So to actually be able to have more memory to download for your PS5 games, you got to have that other memory thing that goes in the inside. But mostly, a lot of the games that I have that I like playing a lot of is my PS4 games, which like Diablo 3, the Assassin's Creed that I have. I'd be able to have all those pretty much downloaded on the hard drive I had, but that hard drive finally went out on me. And that was I think that was a 4 terabyte hard drive. So I was able to have a good portion of my PS4 games on there. I'll be right back.
Rand, you and Darren have some clean cloths and as much cool water as you can carry. I'll bring your temperature down first, Matt. Pretty naive. That's bad. A wisdom isn't supposed to think of herself as a woman, is she? As a pretty woman. You do, don't you? Now. You can't make yourself forget that you're a pretty woman now. And it frightens you. Everybody changes. Nynaeve's face paled as he spoke. Whether with anger or something else, Rand could not tell. Matt gave a sly laugh, and his feverish eyes slid to Egwene. Pretty Egwene, he croaked. Pretty is Nynaeve. And you share other things now, don't you? Other dreams. What do you dream about now? Egwene took a step back from the bed. We are safe from the Dark One's eyes for the time being, Moraine announced as she walked into the room with Lan at her heels.
Yeah, but what's sucked about that is, especially for my Assassin's Creed, was I was working on a couple of them,
I need to not move except for turning to stare at the Isodyne in surprise.
Cause I would move around, play on one Assassin's Creed for a while, play on the other one, then I'll switch back and forth between different games. Now I really can't do that too much.
The wisdom continued to protest as she got to her feet, angrily straightening her clothes. But Moraine ignored her completely.
Right. Good thing about that, just re-upload them.
Eyeing him the way she would a viper. All of you
I'm gonna get past this part real quick and then
and be quiet. That's intently as she
read like
He
this.
bared his teeth in a silent, snarling rictus and pulled himself into an even tighter knot. But he never took his eyes from hers. Slowly, she put one hand on him, lightly, on a knee drawn up to his chest. A convulsion shook him at her touch, a shudder of revulsion spasming through his entire body. And abruptly, he pulled one hand out, slashing at her face with the ruby-hilted dagger. 1 minute Lan was in the doorway, and the next he was at the bedside, as if he had not bothered with the intervening space. His hand caught Matt's wrist, stopping the slash, as if it had struck stone. Still Matt held himself in that tight ball. Only the hand with the dagger tried to move, straining against the warder's implacable grip. Matt's eyes never left Moraine, and they burned with hate. Moraine also did not move. She did not flinch from the blade, only inches from her face, as she had not when he first struck. How did he come by this? She asked in steel voice. I asked if Mordeth had given you anything. I asked, and I warned you, and you said he had not. He didn't, Rand said. Matt took it from the treasure room. Moraine looked at him, her eyes seeming to burn as much as Matt's. He almost stepped back before she turned away again, back to the bed. I didn't know until after we were separated. I didn't know. You did not know. Moraine studied Matt. He still lay with his knees pulled up to his chest, still snarled soundlessly at her, and his hand yet fought Lan to reach her with the dagger. It is a wonder you got this far, Curious. I felt the evil of it when I laid eyes on him. The touch of Mashadar. But a Fade could sense it for miles. Even though he would not know exactly where, he would know it was near. And Mashadar would draw his spirit on his bones, remembered that this same evil swallowed an army. Dreadlords, Fades, Trollocs, and all. Some dark friends would probably feel it too. Those who have truly given away their souls. There could not help but be those who would wonder at suddenly feeling this, as if the very air around them itched. They would be compelled to seek it. It should have drawn them to it as a magnet draws iron filings. There were dark friends, Brad said, more than once, but we got away from them. And a Fade the night before we reached Camelin, but he never saw us. He cleared his throat. There were rumors of strange things in the night outside the city. It could be Trollocs. Oh, it's Trollocs, sheepherder, Lan said wryly. And where Trollocs are, there are Fades. Tendons stood out on the back of his hand from the effort of holding Matt's wrist. But there was no change in his voice.
Damn, I got worried about this one now.
I've seen signs for 2 days. And heard farmers and villagers mutter about things in the night. The murderer managed to strike into the 2 rivers unseen somehow. But every day they come closer to those who can send soldiers to hunt them down. Even so, they won't stop now, sheepherder. But we're in Camelin, Egwene said. They can't get to us as long as... They can't, the warder cut her off. The Fades are building their numbers in the countryside. That's plain enough from the sign if you know what to look for. Already there are more Trollocs than they need to just watch all the ways out of the city. 12 fists at least. There can only be one reason. When the Fades have enough numbers, they will come into the city after you. That act may send half the armies of the south marching to the borderlands. But the evidence is that they're willing to take that risk. You 3 have escaped them too long. It looks as if you've brought a new Trolloc war to Camelin, sheepherder. Egwene gave a gasping sob. Aaron shook his head as though to deny it. Rand felt a sickness in his stomach at the thought of Trollocs in the streets of Camelin. All those people at Lambeth, never realizing the real threat waiting to come over the walls. What would they do when they suddenly found Trollocs and Fades in their midst, killing them? He could see the towers burning, flames breaking through the domes. Trollocs pillaging through the curving streets and vistas of the inner city. The palace itself in flames. Elaine and Gowan and Morghese dead. Not yet, Maureen said absently. She was still intent on that. If we can find a way out of Camelot, the Halfmen will have no more interest here. If. So many ifs. Better we were all dead, Perrin said suddenly, and Rand jumped at the echo of his own thoughts. Perrin still sat staring at the floor, glaring at it now, and his voice was bitter. Everywhere we go, we bring pain and suffering on our backs. It would be better for everyone if we were dead. Nynaeve rounded on him, her face half fury and half worried fear. But Moraine forestalled her. What do you think to gain, for yourself or anyone else, by dying? The Aes Sedai asked. Her voice was level, yet sharp. If the Lord of the Grave has gained as much freedom to touch the pattern as I fear, he can reach you dead more easily than alive now. Dead, you can help no one. Not the people who have helped you, not your friends and family back in the Two Rivers. The shadow is falling over the world. None of you can stop it.
Okay.
Perrin raised his head to look at her, and Rand gave a start. The irises of his friend's
That bug
eyes were
bit
more
dry.
yellow than brown. With his shaggy hair and the intensity
Yeah,
of his
Tango's
gaze,
still going, but
there's something
I
about
guess
him.
good thing is it's a
Rand
roach
could not
weed.
grasp it enough to make it out. Perrin spoke with a soft voice, gave his voice more weight than if he had shouted. We can't stop it alive either, now can we? I will have time to argue with you later, Maureen said. But your friend needs me now. She stepped aside so they could all see Matt clearly. His eyes still on her with a rage-filled stare, he had not moved or changed his position on the bed. Sweat stood out on his face, and his lips were bloodless in an unchanging snarl. All of his strength seemed to be pouring into the effort to reach Moraine with the dagger Lan held motionless. Or had you forgotten? Perrin gave an embarrassed shrug and spread his hands wordlessly. What's wrong with him? Egwene asked, and Nynaeve added, Is it catching? I can still treat him. I don't seem to catch sick, no matter what it is. Oh, it is catching, Maureen said, and your protection would not save you. She pointed to the ruby-hilted dagger, careful not to let her finger touch it. The blade trembled as Matt strained to reach her with it. This is from Shadar Logoth. There is not a pebble of that city that is not tainted and dangerous to bring outside the walls. And this is far more than a pebble. The evil that killed Shadar Logoth is in it, and in that, too, now. Suspicion and hatred so strong that even those closest are seen as enemies. Rooted so deep in the bone that eventually the only thought left is to kill. By carrying the dagger beyond the walls of Shadar Logoth, he freed it, this seed of it, from what bound it to that place. It will have waxed and waned in him, but he is in the heart of him, fighting with the contagion of Mashadar sought to make him. But now the battle inside him is almost done, and he almost defeated. Soon, if it does not kill him first, he will spread that evil like a plague wherever he goes. Just as one scratch from that blade is enough to infect and destroy, so soon, a few minutes with Matt will be just as deadly. Nynaeve's face had gone white. Can you do anything? She whispered. I hope so. Maureen sighed. For the sake of the world, I hope I am not too late. Her hand delved into the pouch at her belt and came out with a silk-shrouded angreal. Leave me. Stay together and find somewhere you will not be seen. But leave me. I will do what I can for him. Chapter 42. Remembrance of Dreams. It was a subdued group that Rand led back down the stairs. None of them wanted to talk to him now, or to one another. He did not feel much like talking either. The sun was far enough across the sky to dim the back stairwell. The lamps had not yet been lit. Sunlight and shadows struck the stairs. Aaron's face was as closed as the others, but where worry creased everyone else's brow, his was smooth. Rand thought the look Perrin wore was resignation. He wondered why and wanted to ask. But whenever Perrin walked through a deeper patch of shadow, his eyes seemed to gather in what little light there was, glowing softly like polished amber. Rand shivered and tried to concentrate on his surroundings, on the walnut-paneled walls and the oak stair railing, on sturdy, everyday things. He wiped his hands on his coat several times, but each time sweat sprang out in his palms anew. It'll all be all right now. We're together again, and hate Matt. He took them to the library by the back way that went by the kitchens, avoiding the common room. Not many travelers used the library. Most of those who could read stayed at more elegant inns in the inner city. Master Gill kept it more for his own enjoyment than for the handful of patrons who wanted a book now and then. Rand did not want to think why Moray wanted to keep them out of sight, but he kept remembering the white-cloaked under-officer saying he would be back, and Elida's eyes when she asked where he was staying. Those were reasons enough, whatever Moray wanted. He took 5 steps into the library before he realized that everyone else had stopped, crowded together in the doorway, open-mouthed and goggling. A brisk blaze crackled in the fireplace, and Royal was sprawled in a long couch, reading. A small black cat with white feet, curled and half asleep on his stomach. When they entered, he closed the book with a huge finger marking his place, and gently set the cat on the floor, then stood to bow formally. Rand was so used to the Ogier that it took him a minute to realize that Royal was the object of the other stairs. These are the friends I was waiting for, Royal, he said. This is Nynaeve, the wisdom of my village, and Perrin. And this is Egwene.
Ah, yes, Royal boomed. Egwene. Rand has spoken of you a great deal. Yes, I am loyal.
He's an Ogier, Rand explained, and watched their amazement change in kind. Even after Trollocs and fades in the flesh, it was still astonishing to meet a legend walking and breathing. Remembering his own first reaction to Loyal, he grinned ruefully. They were doing better than he had. Loyal took their gaping in his stride. Rand supposed he hardly noticed it compared with the mob shouting trouble.
And the Aes Sedai, Rand?
Loyal asked. Upstairs with Matt. The Ogier raised one bushy eyebrow thoughtfully.
Then he is here. I suggest we all be seated. She will be joining us, yes. There's nothing to do but wait.
The act of sitting seemed to loosen some catch inside the Emmonsfield folk, as if being in a
There goes
well-studied
round
chair
one.
with a fire in the fireplace and a cat now curled up on the hearth made them feel at home. As soon as they were settled, they excitedly began asking the Ogier questions. To Rand's surprise, Perrin was the first to speak. The steading oil. Are they really havens, the way the stories say? His voice was intent, as if he had a particular reason for asking. Loyal was glad to tell about the steading, how he came to be at the Queen's blessing, and what he had seen in his travels. Rand soon leaned back, only partly listening. He had heard it all before, in detail. Loyal liked to talk, and talk at length when he had the slightest chance, though he usually seemed to think a story needed 200 or 300 years of background to make it understood. His sense of time was very strange. To him, 300 years seemed a reasonable length of time for a story or explanation to cover. He always talked about leaving the steading as if it were just a few months before, but it had finally come out that he had been gone more than 3 years. Rand's thoughts drifted to Matt. A dagger. Bloody knife, and it might kill him just from carrying it. Mike, I don't want any more adventure. If she can heal him, we should all go... not home. We can't go home. Somewhere. We'll all go somewhere they've never heard of Aes Sedai or the Dark One. Somewhere. The door opened, and for a moment, Rand thought he was still imagining. Matt stood there blinking, with his coat buttoned up, a dark scarf wrapped low around his forehead. Then Rand saw Moraine, with her hand on Matt's shoulder, and Lan behind him. The Aes Sedai was watching Matt carefully, as one watches someone only lately out of a sick bay. As always, Lan was watching everything while appearing to watch nothing. Matt looked as if he had never been sick a day. His first hesitant smile included everyone, though it slipped into an open-mouthed stare at the sight of Loyal, as if he were seeing the Ogier for the first time. With a shrug and a shake, he turned his attention back to his friends. That is... He took a deep breath. It seems I've been acting sort of oddly. I don't remember much of it really. He gave Moraine an uneasy look. She smiled back confidently and he went on. Everything is hazy after Whitebridge. Tom and the... He shivered and hurried on. The further from Whitebridge, the hazier it gets. I don't even remember arriving in Cameron at all. He eyed Royal askance. Not really. Maureen said upstairs uh, he grinned and suddenly he truly was the old Matt. You can't hold a man to blame for what he does when he's crazy, can you? You always were crazy, Aaron said, and for a moment he too sounded as of old. No, Nynaeve said. Tears made her eyes bright, but she was smiling. None of us blamed you. Brandon and Gwaine began talking at once then, telling Matt how happy they were to see him well, and how well he looked, with a few laughing comments thrown in about hoping that he was done with his tricks now that one so ugly had been played on him. Matt met banter with banter as he found a chair with all of his old swagger. As he sat down, still grinning, he absent-mindedly touched his coat as if to make sure that something tucked behind his belt was still there. And Rand's breath caught. Yes, Moraine said quietly. He still has the dagger. The laughter and talk was still
I'll
going
be
on
right
among the
back.
rest of Damon's guild folk, but she had noticed his sudden intake of breath and had seen what had caused it. She moved closer to his chair, where she did not have to raise her voice for him to hear clearly. I cannot take it away from him without killing him. The binding has lasted too long and grown too strong. That must be a knotted in Tarval. It is beyond me, or any lone Aes Sedai, even with an Ungryal. But he doesn't look sick anymore. He had a thought and looked up at her.
Be right back.
As long as he has the dagger, the Fates will know where we are. Dark friends too, some of them. You said so. I have contained that, after a fashion. If they come close enough to sense it now, they will be on top of us anyway. I cleansed the taint from him, Rand, and did what I could to slow its return. But return it will in time, unless he receives help in Tarval. A good thing that's where we're going, isn't it? He thought maybe it was the resignation in his voice and the hope for something else that made her give him a sharp look before turning away. Loyal was on his feet, bowing to her. I am Loyal, son of Arendt, son of Holland, Aes Sedai. The steading offers sanctuary to the servants of Alant. Thank you, Loyal, son of Arendt, Moraine answered dryly. But I would not be too free with that greeting if I were you. There are perhaps 20 Aes Sedai in Caemlyn at this moment, and everyone but I know the Red Hadja. Loyal nodded sagely as if he understood. Rand could only shake his head in confusion. He would be light-blinded if he knew what she meant. It is strange to find you here, the Aes Sedai went on. You Ogier leave the
Hey,
study
Babylon, how you doing, bro?
The old story.
Good to see ya.
Aes Sedai. The old books filled my unworthy head with pictures. I want to see the groves and the cities we built too. There do not seem to be many of either still standing. But if buildings are a poor substitute for trees, they are still worth seeing. The elders think I'm odd wanting to travel. I always have, and they always have. None of them believe there is anything worth seeing outside the study. Perhaps when I return and tell them what I've seen, they will change their minds. I hope so, in time.
Perhaps they will, Moraine said smoothly. Now, Loyal, you must forgive me for being abrupt. It is a failing of humankind, I know. My companions and I have urgent need to plan our journey. If you could excuse us. It was Loyal's turn to look confused. Rand came to his rescue. He's coming with us. I promised him he could. Moraine stood looking at the Ogier as if she had not heard, but finally she nodded. The wheel weaves as the wheel wills, she murmured. Lad, see that we are not taken unaware. The warder vanished from the room, silently, but with a click of the door shutting behind him. Land's disappearance acted like a signal. All talk was cut off. Moraine moved to the fireplace. When she turned back to the room, every eye was on her. Slight of build as she was, her presence dominated. We cannot remain long in Kingdom, nor are we safe here in the Queen's blessing. The Dark One's eyes are already in the city. They have not found what they are searching for, or they would not still be looking. That we have to our advantage. I have set wards to keep them away. By the time the Dark One realizes that there is a part of the city the rats no longer enter, we will be gone. Any ward that will turn a man aside, though, will be as good as a beacon fire for the murderer. And there are children of the light in Kingdom also, looking for Perrin and Egwene. Rand made a sound, and Moraine raised an eyebrow at him. I thought they were looking for Matt and me, he said. The explanation made both the Aes Sedai's eyebrows lift. Why do you think the White Cloaks were looking for you? I heard one say they were looking for someone from the Two Rivers. Dark friends, he said. What else was I supposed to think? With everything that's been happening, I'm lucky I can think at all.
It has been confusing, I know, Rand.
Loyal put in.
But you can think more clearly than that. The children hate Aes Sedai. Elida would not.
Elida? Moraine cut in sharply. What has Elida Sedai to do with this? She was looking at Rand so hard that he wanted to lean back. She wanted to throw me in prison, he said slowly. All I wanted was a look at Logain, but she wouldn't believe I was in the palace garden with Elaine and Gowan just by chance. They were all staring at him, as if he had suddenly sprouted a third eye, all except Loyal. Queen Morgaze let me go. She said there was no proof I meant any harm and she was going to uphold the law, no matter what Elida suspected. He shook his head, the memory of Morgaze and all her radiance making him forget for a minute that anyone was looking at him. Can you imagine me meeting a queen? She's beautiful, like the queens in stories. So is Elaine. And Gowan? You'd like Gowan, Pat. Perrin. Pat. They were still staring. Blood and ashes, I just climbed up on the wall for a look at the false dragon. I didn't do anything wrong. That's what I always say, Matt said blandly, though he was suddenly grinning hard, and Egwene asked in a decidedly neutral voice, Who's Elaine? Moraine muttered something crossly.
Hell yeah, Babylon, that's the thing to do.
Perrin said, shaking his head. You really have had adventures. Oh, we met with Tinkers and some White Cloaks. He avoided looking at Moraine so obviously that
About to do a dab, I just gotta check something.
Perrin touched the bruises on his face. On the whole, singing with the Tinkers was more fun than the White Cloaks.
The traveling people live for their songs, Blair said. For all songs, for that matter. For the search for them, at least. I met some Tuatha a few years back, and they wanted to learn the songs we sing to trees. Actually, the trees won't listen to very many anymore, and so not many Ogier learn the songs.
Trophy wife, huh?
So
That's a pretty good name, I guess.
I taught the Tuatha what they could learn, but the trees never listened to humans. For the traveling people, there were only songs, and just as well received for that, since none was the song they sang. That's what they call the leader of each band, the seeker. They come to studying Shanghai sometimes. You humans do.
If you please, wow, Moraine said. But he cleared his throat suddenly and went on in a quick rumble as if afraid she might stop him.
I've just remembered something, Aes Sedai.
That would have been a nasty
I've always
hit.
wanted to ask an Aes Sedai if ever I met one. Since you know many things and have great libraries in Tarvalin, and now I have, of course, and may I?
If you make it brief, she said curtly.
Brief.
He said, as though wondering what it meant.
Yes,
Well,
brief. There was a man came to studying Shanghai a little time back. This was not unusual in itself at the time, since a great many
Okay.
refugees had come
Now
to
let's
this
put a
part of
fresh
the world,
one in there.
doing what you humans call the Ainu War.
Rand grinned. A little time back. 20 years, near enough.
he was at the point of death, though there was no wound or mark on him. The elders thought it might be something Aes Sedai had done.
Leo gave Moraine an apologetic look.
Since as soon as he was within the steading, he quickly got well. A few months. One night he left without a word to anyone, simply sneaked away when the moon was down.
He looked at Moraine's face and cleared his throat again.
Yes, briefly. Before he left, he told a curious tale which he said he meant to carry to Tarval. He said the Dark One intended to blind the eye of the world and slay the great serpent, kill time itself. The elders said he was as sound in his mind as in his body, but that was what he said. What I have wanted to ask is, can the Dark One do such a thing? Kill time itself? And the eye of the world? Can he blind the eye of the great serpent? What does it mean?
Bran expected almost anything from Moraine, except what he saw. Instead of giving Royal an answer or telling him she had no time for it now, she stood there staring right through the Ogier, frowning and
Hell yeah.
That's what the Tinkers told us, Perrin said. Yes, Gwen said. The Aiel story. Moraine turned her head slowly. No other part of her moved. What story? It was an expressionless look she gave him, but it made Perrin take a deep breath, though when he spoke, he was as deliberate as ever. Some Tinkers crossing the waste. They said they could do that unharmed. Found Aiel dying after a battle with Trollocs. Before the last Aiel died, they were all women apparently, told the Tinkers what Royal just said. The Dark One, they called him Sightblinder, intends to blind the eye of the world. This was only 3 years ago, not 20. Does it mean something? Perhaps everything, Moraine said. Her face was still, but Rand had the feeling her mind raced behind those dark eyes. Baalzamon, Perrin said suddenly. The name cut off all sound in the room. No one appeared to breathe. Perrin looked at Rand, then at Matt, his eyes strangely calm and more yellow than ever. At the time, I wondered where I heard that name before. The Eye of the World. Now I remember. Don't you? I don't want to remember anything, Matt said stiffly. We have to tell her, Perrin continued. It's important now. We can't keep it secret any longer. You see it, don't you, Rand? Tell me what? Moraine's voice was harsh, and she seemed to be bracing for a blow. Her gaze had settled on Rand. He did not want to answer. He did not want to remember any more than Matt. But he did remember, and he knew Perrin.
God damn it.
His friends. Matt reluctantly, Perrin decisively, but at least they had done it.
I turned it off.
He did not have to face her alone. We have had dreams. He rubbed the spot on his finger where the thorn had stuck him once, remembering the blood.
Now back to your trophy wife. Nice.
Weasley remembered the sunburned feel of his face another time. Except maybe they weren't dreams exactly. Baalzamon was in them. He knew why Perrin had used that name. It was easier than saying the Dark One had been in your dreams, inside your head. He said all sorts of things. But once he said the Eye of the World would never serve me. For a minute, his mouth was as dry as dust. He told me the same thing, Perrin said. Matt sighed heavily. Rand found he had spit in his mouth again. You aren't angry with us? Perrin asked, sounding surprised. And Rand realized that Moraine didn't understand. She was studying him, but her eyes were clear and calm and intent. More with myself than you. But I did ask you to tell me if you had strange dreams. In the beginning, I asked. Though her voice remained level, a flash of anger crossed her eyes and was gone in an instant. Had I known after the first such, I might have been able to. There has not been a dream worker in Tarban for nearly 1,000 years, but I could have tried. Now it is too late. Each time the Dark One touches you, it makes the next touching easier for him. can still shield you somewhat. But even then, remember the stories of the Forsaken into them? Strong men who had from the start. These stories are true. None of the Forsaken had a tenth of the strength of their master. Not Marino or Archer, not Balthamo or de Montfort, not even Ishamael, the betrayer of himself. Not even if Wayne were looking at him, and saw him and Pat and Perrin, all three. The women's faces were a blood-drained blend of fear and horror. But they were afraid for us. They were afraid of us. What can we do? He asked.
I had to give it a sec before
Staying close by.
I start round 2 of that roachweed. Because roachweed's a little potent.
But you cannot always remain close to me. You can defend yourself if you have the strength for it. But you must find the strength and will within yourself. I cannot give it to you. I think I've already found my protection, Perrin said, sounding resigned rather than happy. Yes, Lauren said. I suppose you could. She looked at him until he dropped his eyes, and even then she stood considering. Finally, she turned to the others. There are limits to the Dark One's power inside you. Yield even for an instant, and you will have a string tied to your heart. A string you may never be able to cut. Surrender, and you will be his. Deny him, and his power fades. It is not easy when he touches your dreams, but it can be done. He can still send half-men against you, and Trollocs and Drekthar, and other things. But he cannot make you his, unless you let him. Fades are bad enough, Perrin said. I don't want him inside my head again, Mac growled. Isn't there any way to keep him out? Moraine shook her head. Loyal has nothing to fear, nor Egwene, nor Nynaeve. Out of the mass of humanity, the Dark One can touch an individual only by chance, unless that person seeks it. But for a time at least, you three are central to the pattern. A web of destiny is being woven, and every thread leads straight to you. What else did the Dark One say to you? I don't remember it all that well, Perrin said. There was something about one of us being chosen, something like that. I remember him laughing, he finished briefly, about who we were chosen by. He said we could serve him or die, and then we'd still serve him. He said the Amaran seat would try to use us, Matt added, his voice fading as he remembered how he was speaking. He swallowed and went on. He said just like Tarvalon used him. He had some names. Davian, I think. I can't remember very well either. Raoul and Darksbane, Perrin said. Yes, Grant said, frowning. He had tried to forget everything about those dreams. It was unpleasant bringing them back. Urian Stonebow was another, and Gwera Malasan. He stopped suddenly, hoping Moraine had not noticed how suddenly. I don't recognize any of them. But he had recognized one, now that he dredged them from the depths of memory. The name he had barely stopped himself from saying. Logain, the false dragon. Right. Tom said they were dangerous names. Is that what Baalzamon meant? Moraine wants to use one of us as a false dragon. I said I hunt down false dragons. They don't use them, do they? Light, help me, do they? Moraine was looking at him, but he could not read her face. Do you know them? He asked her. Do they mean anything? The Father of Lies is a good name for the Dark One, Moraine replied. It was always his way to seed the worm of doubt wherever he could. It eats at men's minds like a canker. When you believe the Father of Lies, it is the first step toward surrender. Remember, if you surrender to the Dark One, he will make you his. And my Sedai never lies, but the truth she speaks may not be the truth you think you hear. That was what Tam had said, and she had not really answered his question. He kept his face expressionless and held his hands still on his knees, trying not to scrub the sweat off them on his breeches. Egwene was crying softly, and Eve had her arms around her, but she looked as if she wanted to cry too. Brand almost wished he could.
They are all
Tolbirlin, Loyal said abruptly. He seemed frightened by the prospect, looking forward to watching from close by as the pattern wove itself around them. Brand looked at him incredulously, and the Ogier gave an abashed shrug, but it was not enough to dim his eagerness. So they are, Lorraine said. 3 of them, when I expected 1. A great many things have happened that I did not expect. This news concerning the Eye of the World changes much. She paused, frowning. For a time, the pattern does seem to be swirling around all 3 of you, just as Loyal says, and the swirl will grow greater before it becomes less. Sometimes being Taviran means the pattern is forced to bend to you, and sometimes it means the pattern forces you to the needed path. The web can still be woven many ways, and some of those designs would be disastrous. For you, for the world. We cannot remain in Camelin, but by any road, Murdrall and Trollocs will be on us before we have gone 10 miles. And just at this point, we hear of a threat to the Eye of the World. Not from one source, but 3, each seeming independent of the others. The pattern is forcing our path. The pattern still weaves itself around you 3, but what hand now sets the warp, and what hand controls the shuttle? Has the Dark One's prison weakened enough for him to exert that much control? There's no need for that kind of talk, Nynaeve said sharply. You'll only frighten them. But not you, Lorraine asked. It frightens me. Well, perhaps you are right. Fear cannot be allowed to affect our course. Whether this is a trap or a timely warning, we must do what we must. And that is to reach the Eye of the World quickly. The Green Man must know of this threat. Brand gave a start. The Green Man? The others stared too, all but Loyal, whose broad face looked worried. I cannot even risk stumbling into Avala for him, Lorraine continued. Time traps us. Even if we could ride out of the city unhindered, it would take many weeks to reach the Blight, and I fear we no longer have weeks. The Blight, Rand heard himself echoed in a chorus, but Moraine ignored them all. The pattern presents a crisis and at the same time a way to surmount it. If I did not know it was impossible, I could almost believe the Creator is taking a hand. There is a way. She smiled as if at a private joke and turned to Loyal. There was an Ogier grove here at Camelin, and a waygate. The new city now spreads out over where the grove once stood, so the waygate must be inside the walls. I know not many Ogier learn the ways now. The one who has a talent and learns the old songs of growing must be drawn to such knowledge, even if he believes it will never be used. Do you know the ways, Loyal? The Ogier shifted his feet uneasily.
I do, Aes Sedai, but
Can you find the path to Faldara along the ways?
I've never heard of Faldara,
Loyal said, sounding relieved. In the days of the Trolloc Wars, it was known as Mukfo the Darnell. Do you know that name?
I know it, Loyal said reluctantly. But
Then you can find the path for us, Moraine said. A curious tune indeed. When we can neither stay nor leave by any ordinary means, I learn of a threat to the Eye. In the same place, there is one who can take us there in days. Whether it is the Creator or fate, or even the Dark One, the pattern has chosen a path for us.
no,
Loyal said, an emphatic rumble like thunder. Everyone turned to look at him, and he blinked under the attention, but there was nothing hesitant about his words.
if we enter the ways, we will all die, or be swallowed by the shadow.
Chapter 43. Decisions and Apparitions. The Aes Sedai appeared to know what Loyal meant, but she said nothing. Loyal peered at the floor, rubbing under his nose with a thick finger as if he was abashed by his outburst. No one wanted to speak. Why? Rand asked at last. Why would we die? What are the ways? Loyal glanced at Moraine. She turned away to take a chair in front of the fireplace. The little cat stretched, its claws scratching on the hearthstone, and languidly walked over to butt its head against her ankles. She rubbed behind its ears with one finger. The cat's purring was a strange counterpoint to the Aes Sedai's level voice. It is your knowledge, Loyal. The ways are the only path to safety for us. The only path to forestalling the Dark One, if only for a time. But the telling is yours. The Ogier did not appear comforted by her speech. He shifted awkwardly on his chair before beginning.
During the time of madness, while the world was still being broken, the earth was in upheaval. Humankind was being scattered like dust on the wind. We Ogier were scattered too, driven from the steady into the exile and the long wandering, when a longing was graven on our hearts.
He gave Moraine another sidelong look. His long eyebrows drew down into 2 points.
I will try to be brief, but this is not a thing that can be told too quickly.
No.
It is
Oh, yeah.
the others I must speak. Those few Ogier who held in their steading, while around them the world was tearing apart. And of the Aes Sedai,
He avoided looking at Moraine now.
the male Aes Sedai, who were dying even as they destroyed the world in their madness. It was to those Aes Sedai, those who had so far managed to avoid the madness, that the steading first made the offer of sanctuary. Many accepted, for in the steading they were protected from the taint of the Dark One that was killing their kind. But they were cut off from the true source. It was not just that they could not wield the One power or touch the source. They could no longer even sense that the source existed. In the end, none could accept that isolation, and one by one they left the steading, hoping that by that time the taint was gone. It never was.
Some in Tarvala, Moraine said quietly, claim that Ogier Sanctuary prolonged the breaking and made it worse. Others say that if all those men had been allowed to go mad once, there would have been nothing left of the world anymore. I am of the blue Ajah, Loyal. Unlike the red Ajah, we hold to the second view. Sanctuary helped to save what could be saved. Continue, please. Loyal nodded gratefully, relieved of a concern, Rand realized.
As I was saying, the Ogier went on. The Aes Sedai, the male Aes Sedai, left. But before they went, they gave a gift to the Ogier in thanks for our sanctuary. The ways. Enter a way gate, walk for a day, and you may depart through another way gate 100 miles from where you started, or 500. Time and distance are strange in the ways. Different paths, different bridges, lead to different places, and how long it takes to get there depends on which path you take. It was a marvelous gift, made more so by the times, for the ways are not part of the world we see around us, or perhaps of any world outside themselves. Not only did the Ogier so gifted not have to travel through the world, where even after the breaking men fought like animals to live, in order to reach another steady, but within the ways there was no breaking. The land between two steading might split open into deep canyons or rise in mountain ranges, but in the way between them there was no change. When the last Aes Sedai left the steading, they gave to the elders a key, a talisman that could be used for growing more. They are a living thing in some fashion, the ways and the waygates. I do not understand it. No Ogier ever has. Even the Aes Sedai have forgotten, I am told. Over the years, the exile ended for us, as those Ogier who had been gifted by the Aes Sedai, found the steading where Ogier had returned from the long wandering. They grew away to it. With the stonework we learned during the exile, we built cities for men, and planted the groves to comfort the Ogier who did the building, so the longing would not overcome them. To those groves, ways were grown. There was a grove and a waygate at mouth of the Daranel, but that city was razed during the Trolloc Wars, no stone left standing on another, and the grove was chopped down and burned by Trolloc fires.
You left no doubt which had been the greater crime. Waygates are all but impossible to destroy, Moraine said. Humankind, not much less so. There are people at Faldara still, though not the great city the Ogier built, and the Waygate yet stands. How did they make them? Egwene asked. Her puzzled look took in Moraine and Royal both. The Aes Sedai, the men. If they couldn't use the one power in the steading, how could they make the waves? Or did they use the power at all? Their part of the true source was tainted, is tainted. I don't know much about what Aes Sedai can do yet. Maybe it's a silly question.
Loyal explained. Each steading has a waygate on its border, but outside. Your question is not silly. You found the seed of why we do not dare travel the ways. No Ogier has used the ways in my lifetime and before. By edict of the elders, all the elders of all the steady, none may, human or Ogier. The ways were made by men wielding power vowed by the Dark One. About 1,000 years ago, during what you humans call the War of the 100 Years, the ways began to change. So slowly in the beginning that none really noticed. They grew dank and dim. Then darkness fell along the bridges. Some who went in were never seen again. Travelers spoke of being watched from the dark. The numbers who vanished grew, and some who came out had gone mad, raving about Machin Shin, the Black Wing. Aes Sedai healers could aid some, but even with Aes Sedai help, they were never the same. And they never remembered anything of what had occurred. Yet it was as if the darkness had sunken into their bones. They never laughed again, and they feared the sound of wind.
For a moment there was silence, but for the cat burning beside Moraine's chair, and the snap and crackle of the fire, popping out sparks. Then Nynaeve burst out angrily. And you expect us to follow you into that? You must be mad. Which would you choose instead? Moraine asked quietly. The white cloaks within King, or the Trollocs without? Remember that my presence in itself gives some protection from the Dark One's works. Nynaeve settled back with an exasperated sigh.
You still have not explained to me, Loyal said, why I should break the edict of the elders, and I have no desire to enter the ways. Muddy as they often are, the roads men make have served me well enough since I left steading Shanghai.
Humankind and Ogier, everything that lives, we are at war with the Dark One, Moraine said. The greater part of the world does not even know it yet, and most of the few who do fight skirmishes and believe they are battles. While the world refuses to believe, the Dark One may be at the brink of victory. There is enough power in the eye of the world to undo his prison. If the Dark One has found some way to bend the eye of the world to his use. Rand wished the lamps in the room were lit. Evening was creeping over Cameron, and the fire in the fireplace did not give enough light. He wanted no shadows in the room. What can we do? Matt burst out. Why are we so important? Why do we have to go to the Blight? The Blight! Moraine did not raise her voice, but it filled the room, compelling. Her chair by the fire suddenly seemed like a throne. Suddenly, even more gaze would have paled in her presence. One thing we can do. We can try. What seems like chance is often the pattern. 3 threads have come together here, each giving a warning. The eye. It cannot be chance. It is the pattern. You three did not choose. You were chosen by the pattern. And you are here, where the danger is known. You can step aside and perhaps doom the world. Running, hiding, will not save you from the weaving of the pattern. Or you can try. You can go to the eye of the world, 3 center points of the web, placed where the danger lies. Let the pattern be woven around you there. You may save the world from the shadow. The choice is yours. I cannot make you go. I'll go, Rand said, trying to sound resolute. However hard he sought the void, images kept
I'll like
flashing
this
through
in
his head.
just a second.
Tam and the farmhouse and the flock in the pasture. It had been a good life. He had never really wanted anything more. There was comfort, a small comfort, hearing Perrin and Matt add their agreement to his. They sounded his dry mouth to speak. I suppose there isn't any choice for Egwene or me either, Nynaeve said. Moraine nodded. You are part of the pattern too, both of you in some fashion. Perhaps not Tavira, perhaps. But strong even so. I have known it since Barrelon. And no doubt by this time the Fates know it too. And Ba'alzamon. Yet you have as much choice as the young men. You could remain here, proceed to Tarvan once the rest of us have gone. Stay behind? Egwene exclaimed. Let the rest of you go off into danger while we hide under the covers? I won't do it. She caught the Aes Sedai's eye and drew back a little, but not all of her defiance vanished. I won't do it, she muttered stubbornly. I suppose that means both of us will accompany you. Nynaeve sounded resigned, but her eyes flashed when she added, You still need my herbs, Aes Sedai, unless you've suddenly gained some ability I don't know about. Her voice held a challenge and did not understand, but Moraine merely nodded and turned to the Ogier. Well, Loyal, son of Holland. Loyal opened his mouth twice, his tufted ears twitching before he spoke.
Yes, well, the green man, the eye of the world.
Oh shit, that sucks.
But I don't think
Hey. At least it was
quite a long time.
it was under warranty, so you got it free.
I suppose.
Can't beat that.
But must it be the wings?
Moraine nodded, and his long eyebrows sagged till the ends brushed his cheeks.
Very well then. I suppose I must guide you. Elder Hammond would say it's no less than I deserve for being so hasty all the time.
Our choices are made then, Moraine said. And now that they are made, we must decide what to do about them and how. Long into the night they planned. Moraine did most of it with Loyal's advice concerning the ways, but she listened to questions and suggestions from everyone. Once dark fell, Lamb joined them, adding his comments in that iron-clawed drawl. Nynaeve made a list of what supplies they needed, dipping her pen in the inkwell with a steady hand despite the way she kept muttering under her breath. Rand wished he could be as matter-of-fact as the wisdom. He could not stop pacing up and down as if he had energy to burn or burst from it. He knew his decision was made, knew it was the only one he could make with the knowledge he had. But that did not make him like it. The Blight. Shale Gould was somewhere in the Blight, beyond the blasted lands. He could see the same worry in Matt's eyes, the same fear he knew was in his own. Matt sat with his hands clasped, knuckles white. If he let go, Rand thought, he would be clutching the dagger from Shadow Logoth instead. There was no worry on Perrin's face at all, but what was there was worse. A mask of weary resignation. Perrin looked as though he had fought something until he could fight it no longer, and was waiting for it to finish him. And sometimes, we do what we must, Rand, he said. Light. For an instant, those yellow eyes lit with eagerness, flashing in the first tiredness of his face, as if they had a life of their own, apart from the big blacksmith's apprentice. There's good hunting along the Blight, he whispered. Then he shuddered, as if he had just heard what he had said. Once more his face was resigned. and Egwene. Rand drew her apart at one point over by the fireplace, where those planning around the table could not hear. Egwene, her eyes, like big dark pools drawing him in, made him stop and swallow. It's me the Dark One's after, Egwene. Me and Matt and Perrin. I don't care what Moraine Sedai says. In the morning, you and Nynaeve can start for home or Tarvalon, or anywhere you want to go, and nobody will try to stop you. Not the Trollocs, not the Fades, not anybody. As long as you want with us. Go home, Egwene. Or go to Tarvalon. But go. He waited for her to tell him she had as much right to go where she wanted as he did, that he had no right to tell her what to do. To his surprise, she smiled and touched his cheek. Thank you, Rand, she said softly. He blinked and closed his mouth as she went on. You know I can't. Moraine said I told us what Min saw in Baerlon. You should have told me who Min was. I thought... Well, Min says I am part of this too. And Nynaeve. Maybe I'm not Tarviran. He stumbled over the word. But the pattern sends me to the eye of the world too, it seems. Whatever involves you involves me. But Egwene, who is Elaine? For a minute he stared at her, then told the simple truth. She's the daughter heir to the throne of Andor. Her eyes seemed to catch fire. You can't be serious for more than a minute, Randolph Thor. I do not want to talk to you. Incredulous, he watched her stiff back return to the table, where she leaned on her elbows next to him to listen to what the warder was saying. I need to talk to Perrin. He knows how to deal with women. Master Gill entered several times, first to light the lamps, then to bring food with his own hands, and later to report on what was happening outside. White cloaks were watching the inn from down the street in both directions. There had been a riot at the gates to the inner city, with the Queen's guards arresting white cockades and red alike. Someone had tried to scratch the dragon standing on the front door and been sent on its way by Lamquin's foot. If the innkeeper found it odd that Loyal was with them, he gave no sign of it. He answered a few questions Moraine put to him without trying to discover what they were planning. And each time he came, he knocked at the door and waited till Lan opened it for him, just as if it were not his inn and his library. On his last visit, Moraine gave him the sheet of parchment covered in Nynaeve's neat hand. It won't be easy this time of night, he said, shaking his head as he perused the list. But I'll arrange it all. Moraine added a small wash-leather bag that clinked as she handed it to him by the drawstrings. Good. And see that we are awakened before daybreak. The watchers will be at their least alert then. We'll leave them watching an empty box, I said I. Master Gill grinned. Rand was yawning by the time he shuffled out of the room, with the rest in search of baths and beds. As he scrubbed himself, with a coarse cloth in one hand and a big yellow cake of soap in the other, his eyes drifted to the stool beside Matt's tub. The golden-sheathed tip of the dagger from Shadar Logoth peeked from under the edge of Matt's neatly folded coat. Lan glanced at it from time to time, too. Rand wondered if it was really as safe to have around as Moraine claimed. You think my doll ever believe it? Matt laughed, scrubbing his back with a long-handled brush. Me, saving the world. My sisters won't know whether to laugh or cry. He sounded like Gill, Matt. Rand wished he could forget the dagger. It was pitch black.
All right, tell them good day. When they argue again, say, I say good day.
For the first time in a long while, he undressed before getting into bed. But he casually tucked the dagger under his pillow, too. Rand blew out the candle and crawled into his own bed. He could feel the wrongness from the other bed, not from Matt, but from beneath his pillow. He was still worrying about it when sleep came. From the first, he knew it was a dream. One of those dreams that was not entirely a dream. He stood staring at the wooden door, its surface dark and cracked and rough with splinters. The air was cold and dank, thick with the smell of decay. In the distance, water dripped, the splashes hollow echoes down stone corridors. Deny him, and his power fails. He closed his eyes and concentrated on the Queen's blessing, on his bed, on himself asleep in his bed. When he opened his eyes, the door was still there. The echoing splashes came on his heartbeat, as if his pulse counted time for them. He sought the flame in the void as Tam had taught him, and found inner calm. But nothing outside of him changed. Slowly he opened the door and went in. Everything was as he remembered it in the room that seemed burned out of the living rock. Tall arched windows led onto an unrailed balcony, and beyond it the layered clouds streamed like a river in flood. The black metal lamps, their flames too bright to look at, gleamed. Black, yet somehow as bright as silver. The fire roared, but gave no heat in the fearsome fireplace, each stone still vaguely like a face in torment. All was the same, but one thing was different. On the polished tabletop stood three small figures, the rough, featureless shapes of men, as if the sculptor had been hasty with his clay. Beside one stood a wolf, its clear detail emphasized by the crudeness of the man shape, and another clutched a tiny dagger, a pointed red on the hilt glittering in the light. The last held a sword. The hair stirring on the back of his neck, he moved close enough to see the hair in an exquisite detail on that small blade. His head jerked up in panic, and he stared directly into the lone mirror. His reflection was still a blur, but not so misty as before. He could almost make out his own features. If he imagined he was squinting, he could nearly tell who it was. "You've hidden from me too long." He whirled from the table, breath rasping his throat. A moment before he had been alone, but now Baalzamon stood before the windows. When he spoke, caverns of flame replaced his eyes and mouth. "Too long, but not much longer." "I deny you," Rand said hoarsely. "I deny that you hold any power over me. I deny that you are." Baalzamon
Right.
a rich sound rolling from fire. "Do you think it is that easy?"
You say, good day.
But then you always
No use to
did.
waste energy like that.
Each time we have stood like this, you have thought you could defy me. What do you mean, each time? I deny you. You always do, in the beginning. This contest between us has taken place countless times before. Each time your face is different and your name. But each time it is you. I deny you. It was a desperate whisper. Each time you throw your puny strength against me, and each time, in the end, you know which of us is the master. Age after age you kneel to me, or die wishing you still had strength to kneel. Poor fool. You can never win against me. Liar, he shouted. Father of lies, father of fools, if you can't do better than that. Men found you in the last age, in the age of legend, and found you back where you belong. Baalzamon laughed again, peal after mocking peal, until Rand wanted to cover his ears to shut it out. He forced his hands to stay at his sides. Void or no, they were trembling when the laughter finally stopped. Worm, you know nothing at all. As ignorant as a beetle under a rock, and as easily crushed. This struggle has gone on since the moment of creation. Always men think it a new war, but it is just the same war discovered anew. Only now change blows in the winds of time. Change. This time there will be no drifting back. Those proud Aes Sedai who think to stand you up against me, I will dress them in chains and send them running naked to do my bidding. Or stuff their souls into the pit of doom to scream for eternity. All but those who already serve me. They will stand but a step beneath me. You can choose to stand with them, with the world groveling at your feet. I offer it one more time. One last time. You can stand above them, above every power and dominion but mine. There have been times when you made that choice. Times when you lived long enough to know your power. Deny. Rand grabbed hold to what he could deny. No, I said I serve you. Another lie. Is that what they told you? 2,000 years ago, I took my Trollocs across the world. Even among Aes Sedai, I found those who knew despair, who knew the world could not stand before Titan. For 2,000 years, the Black Ajah has dwelt among the others, unseen in the shadows. Perhaps even those who claimed to help you. Rand shook his head, trying to shake away the doubts that came welling up in him. All the doubts he had had about Moraine, about what the Aes Sedai wanted with him, about what she planned for him. What do you want from me? He cried. Deny him. Light, help me deny him. Kneel! Balsman pointed to the floor at his feet. Kneel and acknowledge me, master. In the end, you will. You will be my creature, or you will die. The last word echoed through the room, reverberating back on itself, doubling and redoubling, till Rand threw up his arms as if to shield his head from a blow. Staggering back until he thumped into the table, he shouted, trying to drown the sound in his ears. No! As he cried out, he spun, sweeping the figures to the floor. Something stabbed his hand, but he ignored it, stomping the clay to shapeless smears underfoot. But when his shout failed, the echo was still there and growing stronger. Die, 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 die. The sound pulled on him like a whirlpool, drawing him in, ripping the void in his mind to shreds. The light dimmed, and his vision narrowed down to a tunnel with Baalzamon standing tall in the last spot of brightness at the end, dwindling until it was the size of his hand, a fingernail, nothing. Around and around the echo whirled him, down into blackness and death. The thump as he hit the floor woke him, still struggling to swim up out of that darkness. The room was dark, but not so dark as that. Frantically, he tried to center on the flame, to shovel fear into it, but the calm of the void eluded him. Tremors ran down his arms and legs, but he held the image of the single flame until the blood stopped pounding in his ears. Matt was tossing and twisting on his bed, groaning in his sleep. Deny you, deny you, deny you. It faded off into unintelligible moans. Rand reached out to shake him awake, and at first touch, Matt sat up with a strangled grunt. For a minute, Matt stared around wildly, then drew a long, shuddering breath and dropped his head into his hands. Abruptly, he twisted around, digging under his pillow, and sank back, clutching the ruby-hilted dagger in both hands on his chest. He turned his head to look at Rand, his face hidden in shadow. He's back, Rand. I know. Matt nodded. There were these 3 figures. I saw them too. He knows who I am, Rand. I picked up the one with the dagger and he said, "So that's who you are." And when I looked again, the figure had my face. My face, Rand. It looked like flesh. It felt like flesh. Light help me, I could feel my own hand gripping me, like I was the figure. Rand was silent for a moment. You have to keep denying him that. I did, and he laughed. He kept talking about some eternal war, and saying we'd met like that 1,000 times before, and... Light, Rand, the Dark One knows me. He said the same thing to me. I don't think he does, he added slowly. I don't think he knows which of us As he levered himself up, pain stabbed his hand. Making his way to the table, he managed to get the candle lit after 3 tries, and spread his hand open in the light. To his palm was a thick splinter, smooth and polished on one side. He stared at it, not breathing. Abruptly, he was pulled the splinter, fumbling with it. What's the matter? Nothing. Finally, he had it, and a sharp yank pulled it free. With a grunt of disgust, he dropped it, with the black rose in his throat. As soon as the splinter left his fingers, it vanished. The wound was still there in his hand, though, bleeding. There was water in the stoneware pitcher. He filled the basin, his hands shaking so that he splashed water onto the table. Hurriedly, he washed his hands, kneading his palm till his thumb brought out more blood, then washed them again. The smallest sliver remaining. Light. Rand said. He made me feel dirty too. But he still lay where he was, holding the dagger in both hands. Yes, Rand said. Dirty. He fumbled a towel from the stack beside the basin. There was a knock at the door, and he jumped. It came again. Yes, he said. Moraine put her head into the room. You are awake already. Good. Dress quickly and come down. We must be away before first light. Now? No. We haven't had an hour's sleep yet. An hour, she said. You have had 4. Now hurry. We do not have much time. Rand shared a confused look with Mac. He could remember every second of the dream clearly. It had begun as soon as he closed his eyes and lasted only minutes. Something in that exchange must have communicated itself to Moraine. She gave him a penetrating look and came all the way in. What has happened? The dreams. He knows who I am, Matt said. The Dark One knows my face. Rand held up his hand wordlessly, palm toward her. Even in the shadowed light from the one candle, the blood was plain. The Aes Sedai stepped forward.
Hell yeah, Babylon. That definitely sounds
her thumb
tasty.
across his palm, covering the wound. Cold pierced him to the bone, so chill that his fingers cramped, and he had to fight to keep them open. When she took her fingers away, the chill went too. He turned his hand then, stunned, scrubbed the thin smear of blood away. The wound was gone. Slowly he raised his eyes to meet those of the Aes Sedai. Hurry, she said softly. Time grows very short. He knew she was not speaking of the time for their leaving anymore. Chapter 44. The Dark Along the Ways. In the darkness just before dawn, Rand followed Moraine down to the back hall where Master Gill and the others were waiting. Nynaeve and Egwene as anxiously as loyal, Aaron almost as calm as the warrior. Matt stayed on Rand's heels as if he were afraid to be even a little alone now, even as much as a few feet away. The cook and her helpers straightened, staring as the party passed silently to the kitchen, already brightly lit and hot with preparations for breakfast. It was not usual for patrons of the inn to be up and out at that hour. At Master Gill's soothing words, the cook gave a loud sniff and slapped her dough down hard. They were all back to tending griddles and kneading dough before Rand reached the stable-yard door. Outside, the night was still pitch black. To Rand, everyone else was only a darker shadow at best. He followed the innkeeper and land blindly, blind in truth, hoping Master Gill's knowledge of his own stable-yard and the warder's instincts would get them across it without someone breaking a leg. Loyal stumbled more than once.
I don't see why we can't have just one point, Yogi grumbled. We don't go running about in the dark and mistaking. I'm an Ogier, not a cat.
Rand had a sudden image of Loyal's tufted ears, twitching irritably. The stable loomed up suddenly out of the night, a threatening mass until the stable door creaked open, spilling a narrow stream of light into the yard. The innkeeper only opened it wide enough for them to go in one at a time. He hastily pulled it to behind Baron, almost clipping his heels. Rand blinked in the sudden light inside. The stablemen were not surprised by their appearance, as the cook had been. Their horses were saddled and waiting. Mondav stood arrogantly, ignoring everyone but Lan, but Aldeep stretched her nose out to nuzzle Moraine's hand. There was a pack horse, bulky with wicker panniers, and a huge animal with hairy fetlocks, taller even than the warder's stallion, for Loyal. It looked big enough to pull a loaded hay wain by itself, but compared with the Ogier, it seemed a pony. Loyal eyed the big horse and muttered doubtfully.
My own feet have always been good enough.
Master Gill motioned to Rand. The innkeeper was lending him a bay almost the color of his own hair, tall and deep of chest, but with none of the fire in his step that Cloud had had, Rand was glad to see. Master Gill said his name was Red. Egwene went straight to Bella and Nynaeve to her long-legged mare. Matt brought his dun-colored horse over by Rand. Aaron's making me nervous, he muttered. Rand looked at him sharply. Well, he's acting strange. Don't you see it too? I swear it's not my imagination or... Rand nodded, not the dagger taking hold of him again, thankfully. He is mad. But just be easy. Moraine knows about it. Whatever it is, Aaron's fine. He wished he could believe it, but it seemed to satisfy Matt just a little. Of course, Matt said hastily, still watching Aaron out of the corner of his eye. I never said it wasn't. Master Gill conferred with the head groom. That leathery-skinned man, with a face like one of the horses, knuckled his forehead and hurried to the back of the stable. The innkeeper turned to Moraine with a satisfied smile on his round face. Ramey says the way is clear, said I. The rear wall of the stable appeared solid and stout, lined with heavy racks of tools. Ramey and another stableman cleared away the hay forks, rakes, and shovels, then reached behind the racks to manipulate hidden latches. Abruptly, a section of the wall swung inward on hinges so well concealed that Rand was not sure he could find them, even with the disguised door standing open. Light from the stable illuminated a brick wall only a few feet away. It's only a narrow run between buildings, the innkeeper said, but nobody outside this stable knows there's a way into it from here. White cloaks or white cockades, there'll not be any watchers to see where you come out. The Aes Sedai nodded. Remember, good innkeeper, if you fear any trouble from this, write to Shariam Sedai of the Blue Aja in Tarvala, and she will help. I fear my sisters and I have a good deal to put right already for those who have helped me. Master Gill laughed, not the laugh of a worried man. Why, you've already given me the only inn in all of Cayman without rats. What more could I ask for? I can double my custom on that alone. His grin faded into seriousness. Whatever you're up to, the Queen holds with Tarvalon, and I hold with the Queen. So I wish you well. The light illumine you, Aes Sedai. The light illumine you all. The light illumine you also, Master Gill, Moraine replied with a bow of her head. But if the light is to shine on any of us, we must be quick. Briskly, she turned to Loyal. Are you ready? With a wary look at its teeth, the Ogier took the reins of the big horse. Trying to keep that mount the length of the hand, he ran the back of the stable. Ramey hopped from one foot to the other to close it again. For a moment, Loyal paused with his head cocked as if feeling this way, he said, and turned down the narrow alley.
That was some
Moraine
wedding
followed
cake.
right behind Loyal's horse, then Rand and mounted. Rand had the first turn, leading the pack horse. Nynaeve and Egwene made the middle of the column, and Lan bringing up the rear. The hidden door swung hastily shut as soon as Mondar stepped into the dirt alleyway. The snick of latches locking, shutting them off, sounded unnaturally loud to Rand. The run, as Master Gill had called it, was very narrow indeed, and even darker than the stable yard, if that was possible. Tall, blank walls of brick or wood lined both sides, with only a narrow strip of black sky overhead. The big woven baskets slung on the pack horse scraped the buildings on both sides. All good supplies for the journey, most of it clay jars filled with oil. A bundle of poles was lashed lengthwise down the horse's back, and each had a lantern swinging at the end of it. In the ways, Loyal said, it was darker than the darkest night. The partially filled lanterns sloshed with the motion of the horse, clinked against each other with a tinny sound. It was not a very loud noise, but in the hour before dawn, Cayman was quiet, silent. The dull metallic clinks sounded as if they could be heard a mile away. When the run led out into a street, Loyal chose his direction without a pause. He seemed to know exactly where he was going now, as if the route he needed to follow was becoming clearer. Rand did not understand how the Ogier could find the way gate, and Loyal had not been able to explain very well. He just knew, he said. He could feel it. Loyal claimed it was like trying to explain how to breathe. As they hurried up the street, Rand looked back toward the corner where the Queen's blessing lay. According to Lamgwen, there were still half a dozen white cloaks not far down from that corner. Their interest was all on the inn, but a noise would surely bring it. No one was out at this hour for a reputable reason. The horseshoes seemed to ring on the paving stones like bells. The lanterns clattered as if the pack horse were shaking them deliberately. Not until they had rounded another corner did he stop looking over his shoulder. He heard relieved sighs from the other Emmons fielders as they came round it, too. Loyal appeared to be following the most direct path to the waygate, wherever it took them. Sometimes they trotted down broad avenues, empty save for an occasional dog skulking in the dark. Sometimes they hurried along alleys, narrow as the stable run, where things slipped under an unwary step. And he'd complain softly about the resulting smells, but no one slowed down. The darkness began to lessen, fading toward a dark gray. Faint glimmers of dawn pearled the sky above the eastern rooftops. A few people appeared in the streets, bundled up against the early cold, heads down while they yet dreamed of their beds. Most paid no mind to anyone else. Only a handful even glanced at the line of people and horses, with Loyal at its head, and only one of those truly saw them. That one man flicked his eyes at them, just like the others, already sinking back into his own thoughts when he suddenly stumbled and almost fell, turning himself back around to stare. There was only light enough to see shapes, but that was too much. He at a distance by himself, the Ogier could have passed for a tall man leading an ordinary horse, or for an ordinary man leading an undersized horse. With the others in line behind him to give perspective, Loyal looked exactly as big as he was, half again as tall as any man should be. The man took one look and, with a strangled cry, set off running, his cloak flapping behind him. There would be more people in the streets soon, very soon. Rand eyed a woman hurrying past the near side of the street, seeing nothing but the pavement in front of him. More people to notice
Some key lime pie.
The distant sky grew lighter. There, Loyal announced at last. It is under there. It was a shop he pointed to, still closed for the night. The tables out front were bare, the awning over them rolled up tight, the door stoutly shuttered. The windows above, where the shopkeeper lived, were still dark. Under? Matt exclaimed incredulously. How in the light can we? Maureen raised a hand and cut him off and motioned for them to follow her into the alley beside the shop. Horses and people together, they crowded the opening between the two buildings. Shaded by the walls, it was darker there than on the street, near to full night again. There must be a cellar door, Maureen muttered. Ah, yes. Abruptly, like
that one's a little smoother.
A coolly glowing ball the size of a man's fist hung suspended over the Aes Sedai's palm, moving as she moved her hand. Rand thought that it was a measure to come through. Everyone seemed to take it as a matter of course. She put it close to the door, it almost flat to the ground. A mask held by thick lock bigger than Rand's hand. Cold rust. Loyal gave the lock a tug. I can't hold it all, mask and all. But it makes noise to wake the whole neighborhood. Let us not damage the Goodman's property if we can avoid it. Moraine studied the locket gently for a moment. Suddenly she gave the rusty iron a tap with her staff, and a lock opened immediately. Hastily, Loyal undid the lock and swung the doors up, propping them back. Moraine went down the ramp thus revealed, lighting her way with the glowing ball, while Deep stepped delicately behind her. Light the lanterns and come down, she called softly. There's plenty of room. Hurry, it will be light out soon. Rand hurriedly untied the bulb lantern, but even before the torch was lit, he realized he could see Matt's features. People would be filling the streets in minutes, and the shopkeeper would be coming down to open up for business, all wondering why the alleyway was crammed full of horses. Matt muttered something nervously about taking horses indoors, but Rand was glad to leave his down there. Matt followed, grumbling, but no less quickly. He swung on the end of its pole, bumping the ceiling if he was not careful, and neither Red nor the pack horse liked the ramp. Then he was down and getting out of Matt's way. Moraine let her floating light die, but as the rest joined them, the added lanterns lit the open space. The cellar was as long and as wide as the building above, much of the space taken up by brick columns, glaring up from narrow bases to 5 times as big at the ceiling. The place seemed made up from a series of arches. There was plenty of room, but Rand still felt crowded. Loyal's head brushed away. As the rusted lock had foretold, the cellar had not been used in a long time. The floor was bare except for a few broken barrels filled with odds and ends, and a thick layer of dust. Motes, stirred up by so many feet, sparkled in the lantern light. Lan was last in, and as soon as he had Mondar down the ramp, he climbed back to pull the doors shut. Blood and ashes, Matt growled. Why would they build one of these gates in a place like this?
It was not always like this,
Boyle said. His rumbling voice echoed in the cavernous space.
not always.
The Ogier was angry, Rand realized with a shock.
Once trees stood here. Every kind of tree that would grow in this place. Every kind of tree that Ogier could coax to grow here. The great trees, 100 spans high. Shade of branch and cool breezes to catch the smell of leaf and flower and hold the memory of the peace of the steady. All that murdered for this.
His fist thumped the column. The column seemed to shake under that blow. Rand was certain he heard bricks crack. Waterfalls of dry mortar slid down the column. What is already woven cannot be undone, Moraine said gently. It will not make the trees grow again for you to bring the building down on our heads. Moraine's drooping eyebrows made him look more abashed than a human face could have managed. Well, perhaps we could keep the groves that still stand from falling into the shadow. You have brought us to what we
Those
see.
pins will get you too.
As she moved to one of the walls, Rand realized that wall was different from the others. They were ordinary brick. This was intricately worked stone, fanciful swirls of leaves and vines, pale even under its coat of dust. The brick and mortar were old, but something about the stone said it had stood there long, long before the brick was fired. Later builders, themselves centuries gone, had incorporated what already stood, and still later men had made it part of a cellar. One part of the carved stone wall, right in the center, was more elaborate than the rest. As well done as the rest was, it appeared a crude copy in comparison. Worked in hard stone, those leaves seemed soft, caught in one frozen moment as a gentle summer breeze stirred them. For all of that, they had the feel of age, as much greater than the rest of the stone, as the rest was older than the brick. That old and more. Boyle looked at them, as if he would rather be anywhere else but there, even out in the streets with another mob. Avin de Sora, Moraine murmured, resting her hand on a trefoil leaf in the stonework. Rand scanned the carving. That was the only leaf of its kind he could find. The leaf of the tree of life is the key, the Aes Sedai said, and the leaf came away in her hand. Rand blinked. From behind him he heard gasps. That leaf had seemed no less a part of the wall than any other. Just as simply, the Aes Sedai set it against the pattern a hand spanned lower. The three-pointed leaf fit there as if the space was intended for it. It was part of the whole. As soon as it was in place, the entire nature of the central stonework changed. He was sure now that he could see the leaves ruffled by some unfelt breeze. He almost thought they were verdant under the dust, a tapestry of thick spring greenery there in the lantern-lit cellar. Almost imperceptibly at first, a split opened in the middle of the ancient carving, widening as the two halves slowly swung into the cellar until they stood straight out. The backs of the gates were worked as the fronts, the same profusion of vines and leaves, almost alive. Behind, what should have been dirt of the cellar of the next building, a dull, reflective shimmering faintly caught their images.
I have heard,
Boyle said, half mourning, half fearful.
that once the waygates shone like mirrors. Once who entered the ways walked through the sun and the sky. Once.
We have no time for waiting, Moraine said. Lan went past her, leading Mondar, old lantern in hand. His shadowy reflection approached him, leading a shadowy horse. Man and reflection seemed to step into each other at the shimmering surface, and both were gone. For a moment, the black stallion balked, an apparently continuous rein connecting him to the dim shape of his own image. The rein tightened, and the warhorse, too, vanished. For a minute, everyone in the cellar stood staring at the waygate. Hurry, Moraine urged. I must be the last through. We cannot leave this open for anyone to find by chance. Hurry! With a heavy sigh, Boyle strode into the shimmer. tossing its head, his big horse tried to hold back from the surface and was hauled through. They were gone as completely as the water in Mondauk. Hesitantly, Rand poked his lantern at the way gate. The lantern sank into its reflection, the two merging until both were gone. He made himself keep on walking forward, watching the pole disappear into itself inch by inch. And then he was stepping into it himself, entering the gate. His mouth fell open. Something icy slid along his skin as if he were passing through a wall of cold water. Time stretched out. The cold enveloped one hair at a time, shimmered over his clothes,
Be
thread by
right
thread.
back.
Abruptly, the chill burst like a bubble, and he paused to catch his breath. He was inside the ways. Just ahead, Lan and Loyal waited patiently by their horses. All around them was blackness that seemed to stretch on forever. Their lanterns made a small pool of light around them, too small, as if something pressed back the light or ate it. Of a sudden anxious, he jerked at his reins. Red and the pack horse came leaping through, nearly knocking him down. Stumbling, he caught himself and hurried to the warder and the ogier, pulling the nervous horses behind him. The animals whickered softly. Even Mondub appeared to take some comfort in the presence of other horses.
Go easy when you pass through a way gate, Rand, Loyal cautioned. Things are different inside the ways than out. Look.
He looked back to where the ogier pointed, thinking to see the same dull shimmer. Instead, he could see into the cellar, as if through a large piece of smoked glass set in the blackness. Disturbingly, the darkness around the window into the cellar gave a sense of depth, as though the opening stood alone with nothing around or behind it but the dark. He said as much with a shaky laugh, but Loyal took him seriously.
You could walk all the way around it, and you would not see a thing from the other side. I would not advise you to. The books aren't very clear about what lies behind the way gates. I think you could become lost there and never find your way out.
Rand shook his head and tried to concentrate on the way gate itself, rather than what lay behind it. That was just as disturbing in its own fashion. If there had been anything to look at in the darkness besides the way gate, he would have looked at it. In the cellar, through the smoky dimness, Moraine and the others were plain enough, but they moved as if in a dream. Every blink of an eye seemed a deliberate, exaggerated gesture. Matt was making his way to the way gate, as though walking through clear jelly, his legs seeming to swim forward.
The wheel turns faster in the ways,
Loyal explained. He looked at the darkness surrounding them, and his head sunk in between his shoulders.
None alive know more than fragments. I fear what I don't know about the ways, Rand.
The Dark One, Lan said, cannot be defeated without chancing risks. But we are alive at this moment. Before us is the hope of remaining alive. Do not surrender before you are beaten, Ogier.
You would not speak so confidently if you had ever been in the ways.
The normal distant thunder of Loyal's voice was muted. He stared at the blackness as if he saw things there.
I never have before either, but I've seen Ogier who have been through a way gate and come out again. You would not speak so if you had.
Matt stepped through the gate and regained normal speed. For an instant, he stared at the seemingly endless darkness, then came running to join them, his lantern bobbing on its pole, his horse leaping behind him, almost sending him sprawling. One by one, the others passed through, Baron and Egwene and Nynaeve, each pausing in shocked silence before hurrying to join the rest. Each lantern enlarged the pool of light, but not as much as it should have. It was as if the dark became denser the more light there was, thickening as it fought against being diminished. That was not a line of reasoning Rand wanted to follow. It was bad enough just being there without giving the darkness a will of its own. Everyone seemed to feel the oppressiveness, though. There were no wry comments from Matt here, and Egwene looked as if she wished she could rethink her decision to come. They all silently watched the way gate, that last window into the world they knew. Finally, only Moraine was left in the cellar, dimly lit by the lantern she had taken. The Aes Sedai still moved in that dreamlike way. Her hand crept as it found the leaf of the Aventasora. It was located lower in the stonework on this side, Rand saw. just where she had placed it on the other. Plucking it free, she put it back in the original position. He wondered suddenly if the leaf on the other side had moved back too. The Aes Sedai came through, leading all deep as the stone gates slowly began closing behind her. She came to join them, the light of her lantern leaving the gates before they were shut. Blackness swallowed the narrowing view of the cellar. In the constrained light of their lanterns, blackness surrounded them totally. Suddenly it seemed as if the lanterns were the only light left in the world. Rand realized that he was jammed shoulder to shoulder in between Perrin and Egwene. Egwene gave him a wide-eyed look and pressed closer, and Perrin made no move to give him room. There was something comforting about touching another human being when the whole world had just been swallowed up by dark. Even the horses seemed to feel the waves pushing them into a tighter and tighter knot. Outwardly unconcerned, Moraine and Lan swung into their saddles, and the Aes Sedai leaned forward, arms resting on her carved staff across the high pommel of her saddle. "We must be on our way, Loyal." Loyal gave a start and nodded vigorously. Yes, I said, you are right. A minute longer than need be. He pointed to a broad strip of white running under their feet, and Rand stepped away from it hastily. All the two rivers folk did. Rand thought the floor had been smooth once, but the smoothness was pitted now, as if the stone had the pox. The white line was broken in several places. This leads from the way gate to the first guided. From there, Loyal looked around anxiously, then scrambled onto his horse with none of the reluctance he had shown earlier. The horse wore the biggest saddle the head groom had been able to find, but Loyal filled it from pommel to cantle. His feet hung down on either side, almost to the animal's knees. Not a minute longer than need be, he muttered. Reluctantly, the others mounted. Moraine and Lan rode on either side of the Ogier, following the white line through the dark. Everyone else crowded in behind as close as they could get, the lanterns bobbing over their heads. The lanterns should have given enough light to fill a house, but 10 feet away from them it stopped. The blackness stopped it, as if it had struck a wall. The creak of saddles, the click of horseshoes on stone, seemed to travel only to the edge of light. Rand's hand kept drifting to his sword. It was not that he thought there was anything out there against which he could use the sword to defend himself. It did not seem as if there was anywhere for something to be. The bubble of light around them could as well have been a cave surrounded by stone, completely surrounded, with no way out. The horses might have been walking a treadmill for the change around them. He gripped the hilt as if the pressure of his hand there could press away the stone he felt weighing down on him. Touching the sword, he could remember Tam's teaching. For a little while, he could find the calm of the void. But the weight always returned, compressing the void until it was only a cavern inside his mind. And he had to start over again, touching Tam's sword to remember. It was a relief when something did change, even if it was only a tall slab of stone standing on end, that appeared out of the dark before them, the broad white line stopping at its base. Sinuous curves of metal inlaid the wide surface, graceful lines that vaguely reminded Rand of vines and leaves. Discolored pocks marked stone and metal alike. "For guiding," Loyal said, and leaned out of his saddle to frown at the cursed metal inlays. "Ogier script," Moraine said, "but so broken I can barely make out what it says." "I hardly can either," Loyal said, "but enough to know we go this way." He turned his horse aside from the guiding. The edges of their light caught other stoneworks, what appeared to be stone-walled bridges, arcing off into the darkness, and gently sloping ramps, without railings of any kind, leading up and down. Between the bridges and the ramps ran a chest-high balustrade, however, as though falling was a danger there at any rate. Plain white stone made the balustrade, and simple curves and rounds fitted together in complex patterns. Something about all of it seemed almost familiar to Rand, but he knew it had to be his imagination groping for anything familiar when everything was strange. At the foot of one of the bridges, Loyal paused to read the single line in the narrow column stone there. He nodded as he rode up onto the bridge. "This is the first bridge of our path," he said over his shoulder. Rand wondered what held the bridge up. The horses' hooves made a gritty sound, as if bits of stone flaked off at every step. Everything he could see was covered with shallow holes, some tiny pinpricks, others shallow, rough-edged craters astride across. as if there had been a rain of acid, or the stone was rotting. The guard wall showed cracks and holes too. In places it was gone altogether for as much as a span. For all he knew, the bridge could be solid stone all the way to the center of the earth. But what he saw made him hope it would stand long enough for them to reach the other end. Whatever that is. The bridge did end, eventually, in a place that looked no different from its beginning. All Rand could see was what their little pool of light touched, but he had the impression that it was a large space, like a flat-topped hill, with bridges and ramps leading all around it. An island, Loyal called it. There was another script-covered guiding. Rand placed it in the middle of the island, with no way of knowing if he was right or not. Loyal read, then took them up one of the ramps, curving up and up. After an interminable climb, curving continuously, the ramp led off onto another island, just like the one where it had begun. Rand tried to imagine the curve of the ramp and gave up. This island can't be right on top of the other one. It can't be. Loyal consulted yet another slab filled with Ogier script, found another signpost column, led them onto another bridge. Rand no longer had any idea in what direction they were traveling. In their huddle of light in the dark, one bridge was exactly like another, except that some had breaks in the guard walls and some did not. Only the degree of damage to the guidings gave any difference to the islands. Rand lost track of time. He was not even sure how many bridges they had crossed or how many ramps they had traveled. The warder must have had a clock in his head, though. Just when Rand felt the first stir of hunger, Lan announced quietly that it was midday and dismounted to parcel out bread and cheese and dried meat from the pack horse. Perrin was leading the animal by that time. They were on an island, and Loyal was busily deciphering the directions on the guiding. Matt started to climb down from his saddle, but Moraine said, "Time is too valuable in the ways to waste. For us, much too valuable. We will stop when it is time to sleep." Lan was already back on Mondar. Rand's appetite slipped at the thought of sleeping in the ways. It was always night there, but not the kind of night for sleeping. He ate while he rode, though, like everyone else. It was an awkward affair, trying to juggle his food, the lantern pole, and his reins. But for all of his imagined lack of appetite, he licked the last crumbs of bread and cheese off his hands when he was done, and thought fondly of more. He even began to think the ways were not so bad. Not nearly as bad as Loyal made out. They might have the heavy feel of the hour before a storm, but nothing changed. Nothing happened. The ways were almost boring. Then the silence was broken by a startled grunt from Loyal. Rand stood in his stirrups to peer past the Ogier and swallowed hard at what he saw. They were in the middle of a bridge, and only a few feet ahead of Loyal, the bridge ended in a jagged gap. Chapter 45. What follows in shadow. The light of their lanterns stretched just far enough to touch the other side, thrusting out of the dark like a giant's broken teeth. Loyal's horse snapped a hoof nervously, and the loose stone fell away into the dead black below. If there was any sound of it striking bottom, Rand never heard it. He edged Red closer to the gap. As far down as he could thrust his lantern on its pole, there was nothing. Blackness below as blackness above, shearing off the light. If there was a bottom, it could be 1,000 feet below, or never. But on the other side, he could see what was under the bridge, holding it up. Nothing. Less than a span in thickness, and absolutely nothing underneath. Abruptly, the stone under his feet seemed as thin as paper, and the endless drop over the edge pulled at him. The lantern and pole seemed suddenly heavy enough to pull him right out of the saddle. Head spinning, he backed the bay away from the abyss as cautiously as he had approached. "Is it to this you've brought us, Aes Sedai?" Nynaeve said. "All this just to find out we have to go back to Camelin after all?" "We do not have to go back," Moraine said. "Not all the way to Camelin. There are many paths along the ways to any place. We need only go back far enough for Loyal to find another path that will lead to Faldara." Loyal? The Ogier pulled himself away from staring at the gap with a visible effort.
What? Oh, yes, I said I can find another path. I had
His eyes drifted back to the chasm, and his ears twitched.
not dreamed the decay had gone so far. If the bridges themselves are breaking, it may be that I cannot find the path you want. It may be that I cannot find a path back either. The bridges could be falling behind us even now.
There has to be a way, Aaron said, his voice flat. His eyes seemed to gather the light, the glow golden. A wolf at bay, Aaron thought, startled. That's what he looks like. It will be as the wheel weaves, Moraine said. But I do not believe the decay is as fast as you fear. Look at the stone pile. Even I can tell that this is an old break.
Yes,
Boyle said slowly.
yes, I can see it. There is no rain or wind here, but that stone has been.
Alrighty, we gotta call into this live for tonight. I want to thank everyone for stopping by and everyone keep stopping by. I appreciate y'all support. Until next time, everyone, y'all stay safe.